And we're live. Look at that. Well, bam. People are gonna be happy and stuff. I hope. Possibly. There's a distinct possibility they might be slightly aroused. You're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Alright, so, today, little douchebags. He's like, what? No, just kidding. Don't hurt me. Today we're talking about Neckos. And we really are, actually. And we're basically coming up with a load of crock of shit as to why they exist. So, Neckos is one thing. The only thing I actually did was fix the timeline because there were some issues, and I wanted to get it done before we got too stuck into the world building. Because I realized we made some mistakes. One thing when streaming, so the timeline's cleaned up a little bit. It's all the way to the 31st millennium, where the Great Crusade begins, and we got Neckos'. So we're gonna go through the changes. By the way, when this document is done, those of you who have fucking Campfire, I will eventually export it and make it publicly available, so you can look at it and be like, "Wow, Kibbs, you didn't even correct any of these spelling mistakes. It's almost like you didn't care enough to." All right. First thing you're going to notice here is we have a little bar here. This is called the Warp Shenanigans. When I was analyzing Warhammer 40k and its writing, one thing I realized is it's all bullshit. So, the easiest way to recognize where we put our bullshit is, unlike when you read the books, is we're just going to stuff it down here. This is the bullshit bar. This is the bullshit reason as to why there's catgirls. Or the bullshit reason as that why it makes this prevalent. You know, technically, the path of Squack would technically be tethered to mutations. Technically. Technicality.
Technicality.
Toggle line type to be little dots is... There we go. Well, because it's a little bit away. Alright, eat it. So, let's go through the timeline and recap where we are. So the Golden Age of Man happens, right? Yeah, everything's great, except it's called the Dark Age of Technology. It's actually not that great. It's actually shitty, apparently. Allegedly. The Golden Age of happens, blah, blah, blah. Then, you know, Carlos McConnell, he finds this planet who he names after himself because he's retarded. And he's very infatuated with himself. It's a beautiful planet. He's like, I'm beautiful too. He might be a Slanesh worshiper if he didn't die 10,000 years before chaos became a thing. But, details. Then they collapse. Simple stuff happens there. They experience a little bit of a dark age. The Grand Admiral, Frank McDaniel, seizes control by amassing a group of ships and eventually just rallying the islands behind him. They establish a provisional government. This provisional government does the basic stuff, and for the next, 700 odd years, they experience a relative peace and golden age, purely because there's just not enough people here. So as people procreate and do what people do, there's a lot more people now. And as people procreate, they also started to spread out. As they spread out, separatism became a thing. And so eventually, this leads into the fall of the provisional government, as you have various culture groups beginning to splinter, and as people spread out, they also form their own cultural identities and kind of want their own autonomy. And as time goes on, they gain their own autonomy, so they can support themselves. So they don't have to be colonies anymore. So in 21,006, you get the Rhodesia and Vladivostok both cede from the provisional government. Osterbergen cedes in only a year later, purely because they are just too far out of reach. Caledora and Trilo, which is basically Greater Australia, I give them the name Trilo because I hated the name Greater Australia, cede a couple years later. And essentially, this marks the end of the provisional government. Though it doesn't fully collapse, as it doesn't really have anything going on to make it really collapse. Pretty much they go through a reformation, and that's where the rise of the Commonwealth comes in. Basically, they restructure and reform to basically form a nation that they can hold together. About 1,000 years later, things are going pretty good. There's been border disputes, all sorts of little things going on, but we're trying to focus on major events. The space race hits them, and it would have hit them sooner, but I kind of have to stretch the timeline here, because 10,000 years, to be honest, they would be more advanced than the Empire of Man or the Crusaders when they'd arrive, and we don't want that to happen because that's retarded. It's also cheesy to have this faction be so technologically superior that they just wipe out the Emperor and he's dead, and then you have a whole fucking weird thing going on there. It's like, oh, well, they built Death Stars because they got so advanced. because people don't really think how long 10,000 years is when you're fairly advanced. So we need a collapse, right? We need some strife. So Cold War happens. They get a lot of technology at this point. There's flashpoints. Things to begin to escalate as these flashpoints occur, and because it's in 23,000 whatever AD, all sorts of stuff's going on in this period of time. We've got, the warp shenanigans. So the veil between the reality and the warp is actually thinning relatively around the whole 20,000 to 30,000. So you get rise of the cults, and with that makes it easier for the warp to manifest itself here. Then you get the War of the Night. It's a period in which a lot of emotions will be stressed out. That'll happen here, which will probably happen, I don't know, relatively shortly. And because of these emotions, right, I'm playing off the warp. Warp is the mean emotion. You get the Screaming Terror, which is basically bad stuff fucking happening. Bad stuff happens. Basically, everyone's genetics get fucked, and lots of nasty things happen to people. Some people just disappear. Creatures for a while spawn, and then they disintegrate as the warp sort of stabilizes, so to speak. I'll read that in a second. The Age of Nightmares begins to refer to the next period of time, which is going to have all sorts of excuses as to why they go through a shitty period of time. Not only do they have mutations and everyone's dying from various fucking cancers and ugly things, but they also have the War on Gods, which basically them declaring war on every single religion because they're like, new. They blame them for the whole cultish behavior because they start to see things tied together. And with the mutations toppled with horrible, scary things, they don't like that. And then you get a godless world, a few thousand years later when they finish up fighting all the cultists. We're basically breezing through this because we need to make some actual progress, or we'll be here forever because I'm not actually paid by GW, so I don't really want to kill myself working on this. The Blight is what they would begin to refer to as the mutation, or mutation, series of mutations. There is not a stabilized variation of the mutation just yet. I'll tell you what the program is. Actually, if you look at the top right, you'll see it there. They form a league, the League of Nations. We'll call it that, just because coming up with a name in its own will just require some retconning. And then they eventually dismantle it once they have dealt with the cultists. Yes, they still have the Blight. Yes, they're all mutated. And at this point, humans have ceased to exist because they're all some variation of mutation, whether it's a minor mutation or a major mutation. It doesn't matter. Everybody is kind of fucked up in their own way, and the children get progressively worse as time goes on. And the lethality in most of the mutation variations begins to skyrocket in every generation. Then you get a period which is called the Total War, which is basically the nations finally doing what they wanted to do, which is beat the snot out of each other, but little scraps remain. And the Unending War refers to the fact that the nations actually just collapse. They just eventually just pitter-patter out. Yes, they were fighting each other, but for about 1,000 years they weren't, and they were just having border skirmishes, mostly because they couldn't even feed their own people. Why they didn't have peace is because the leading people in the top didn't want to quite have peace. We'll address that later. That is something that needs to be addressed. Why didn't they sue for peace when they're like, hey, we're starving, and there's really no need to fight the war? The reason really is we need them to fucking die. We need to go back and explain why everyone's dead. And we get two major mutations that stabilize, which this little blurb here specifies the two mutation variants that stabilize. Why did I split it into two? We still need conflict, because there's still 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is a lot of time to recover as a society, and we kind of want them to be a little bit nerfed, because I don't like the idea of making this race something that the Imperium encounters, and it's like, oh god, they're tough, or they're scary, or they're spooky, or they're a problem, we need to deal with them. I was thinking of making them relatively easy to absorb into them, because if the fluff doesn't really mention the Felinids as important, then I should try to bear in mind that the Felinids aren't actually that important. They're a singular world, they don't have a lot of territory, and they're relatively regressing at this point. So, this ties in the whole fucking cat thing being tied to the whole Felinid abhuman, which is using the warp shenanigans, Deus Machina. Thank you, Warhammer, for coming with Deus Ex Machinas for me. And then we have the Forgotten Ones, which they've been purged from the records because you know how the Imperium is. Plus, it sounds cool. We basically have, like, what I'm imagining is like a group of crustaceous abhumans that are super aggressive and very chaosy. And so the Felinids are going to fight the abhumans. And this is where we're going to build into what would be more explained, but it would still be kind of covered up because they're still in the Great Crusade, 31st millennium. We still have to get to the 41st millennium. We have to get to this point right here. And then we have to get to Arith. And the idea is that we tie in all this backstory to explain why Arith is even not on this planet. Because apparently, according to the one bit of fluff that exists, this planet is quarantined. Realistically, if it were up to me, and I knew that before I made Arith, I would never have played a Felinid because it actually makes no sense. I mean, I'm sure we can bullshit a reason. I mean, anyone can bullshit a reason why there's a Felinid not on, what's the shitty plant name? Carlos McConnell. I've had to type it in several times into writing these little blurbs here. All records of their existence were since expunged. Okay, so yeah, that is a brief overlay of the cleaned up timeline. I only spent like an hour on it or two, just trying to re-put it together into a more digestible format. But it gets the trick done. And I like to use year dates, though I didn't use them for here because this is just mostly referring to what's happening in this period of time, rather than actual progression of time. So you'll notice that is a distinct difference. Let's just save it again. So the program I'm using, because somebody asked, and I appreciate the donation, $5. It's a little bit more expensive than $5, sadly. And I will show you. You can actually purchase it on Steam. Come on. Come on, Steam. Let's go. Or wait, if I go to software. It'll be under the software tab if you purchase it. This is a pretty good software if you want to make like role-playing campaigns and flesh out some fluff behind it for your players. I seriously recommend it. Or if you're just like a writer. Like, for instance, we're using it to write our game story in it. Now, there's some features I really wish were in there, like A and B paths, because if you're making a story-based game and you have multiple paths for a player to go down, it'd be nice to have an A, B, C, D option if you ever wanted to do that. Also, is Steam's down, or is it just not loading? Oh, well, it's just called Campfire Pro. It's about $50 or so on Steam. They're updating all sorts of stuff with it. So, yeah, no, it's I'd consider early access in terms of writing, but that's about it. So is the we need to kill them mindset from you or the leaders? No, from me. I need them to die. Which, referring to Marley's question, he's talking about the Unending War. Why do we want them to die? Well, we need them to regress. Because 10,000 years, they would have surpassed the Emperor and his Great Crusade in technology, more than likely, based on how humans normally go. And with the Cold War, that actually gives them a huge bump in technology. Cold Wars are fantastic for technological advances. But the idea is that I kind of wanted to make tons of stuff that they could use that came from a period of time. And being that Carlos McConnell is a colonized world, it's not going to have a lot of equipment out there. I grant you monetary means to create more squeckers. I appreciate that. Thank you, Meyer. Meyer. You don't always have to give me money, Meyer, though. You make me feel bad because you gave so much money to Barch even, too. Like, make sure you save some money for yourself. I appreciate the donations, but you make me a little concerned. Okay, so we've connected that with mutations because technically that ties into the mutation path there. Let me just save again because I'm paranoid. I'm always paranoid, and when I write my game in this, I always have to make sure it's perfect. All right, $5 again. Thank you again. Thanks for the info. Here's more money, too, to help you with that. Also, I talk to you on your Discord, so guess who it is. Anyway, take my money. Russell Patton. See, if that's your full name, I'm not gonna... Well, it says it right there. It says it right there. Too late. Can't guess. There's 400 people to pick from. Again? 400 people on my server. What are the odds I'm going to guess on? Are you Hands? Hands like, oh, shit.
No.
It's figured me out.
Besides, even then, you know my name.
Hands to jiggers up, run.
Okay, so one other thing I did is I kind of needed to beef up the characters a little bit more, and I also broke it up into brackets. We've got the Felinids for Felinid characters, Mutation Era for when the Mutation Era starts separating, and Pre-Mutation Era characters. I'm breaking it up into brackets of eras. Now, you can do this in various different ways. This is not really a tutorial, but for example, in the game that Fairman and I are working on, what we broke it up into was we broke it up into countries as well as, and then broke it up into party. So you can kind of like, it really just break it up how you need to. For this timeline, or for this project, I figured breaking up via timeline was more important than doing it the other way. Because it's not a game, it's more of a timeline. Essentially, imagine it's a source book for the Felinids. That's the idea we're making here. Now, I have no idea how to balance for Warhammer 40k tabletop. Otherwise, I would just totally go ham and make up a bunch of rule set for like a fucking, I don't know, a guards division detachment thing for them. It'd be funny. But I wouldn't give them stupid fucking abilities like claws and shit, because they're not, the Felinids that we're writing are not probably canon. They're not fully furries. Basically, it's your traditional anime trope of I'm gonna move this over here. Fairman actually posted. It's that. It's a cat girl. That's what we're making here. We're basically bullshitting why there's adorable cat girls in this, which probably would not exist because considering Warhammer 40k, if we were to be more accurate to the fluff, we'd probably go for furries because that would probably fit with the fluff because it's dark, gritty, disgusting in 40k.
It Felinid's off canon.
Can Felinids purr? I'd like to think so because that's kind of funny. But also maybe not because that could be also kind of gay. Because think about it. Felinids aren't all cat girls. There are boys and girls. So that means the boys could purr. Ew. That's gross. It's like, wow, Kibbs, I didn't realize you're such a man-hater. Just for cat boys, though. They're disgusting. All right. Technically, we have to write cat boys, though. And when writing, it's not about what you like. You got to disconnect yourself. All right, so. I hate my life. Can't believe we're actually working on goddamn cat girl lore. All right, so now the big question is, all right, so where we want to go? Now, I think what we're going to do here is we're going to arc it out in plot chunks. The idea is that we have plot chunks and then we write to each chunk. This is how I do it for the game that I'm working on. I create a chunk. I'm like, oh, it'd be really cool if these two characters had like a sort of like, Battle of the Heroes epic duel. It's like, well, how do you make that make sense? Because they're like pretty much BFFs. Like, Obi-Wan and Anakin Skywalker. Now, I mean, you could just make it happen and make it really, really awkward like Star Wars did, or you can try to write it. And we're going to attempt to try to write it. In the case of this, what we need to consider is what is our end goal, right? Our end goal is Arith and who she is. I'm making her an event purely because we're just going to refer to where she's relevant, and we're going to try to connect it to the Lurking Hunger. The idea is we're basically taking plot chunks and connecting them together to attempt to form a cohesive story to the best of our abilities. So, throw this plot chunk out here. Arith, whatever. Now, another thing is we have to keep in mind is how does she get past the quarantine? Because that world is quarantined, and I'm going to misspell words here all the time. They don't have a check thing. We're just going to...
Just because the world is quarantined doesn't mean that nobody got out there before the quarantine got in place.
Thanks, Arturia. Appreciate it.
I mean,
What, you wanted to try campfire? Okay, so let's see. Hold on. Okay, so firstly, we need her to get past the quarantine. And why does she get past the quarantine? Then we need to get to where she is, present day. We can even write actual Lurking Hunger lore. Well, no, we're not even there yet, Fairman. I'm making plot chunks. We're not going to waste time. The idea is we stay loose. Okay, imagine when you're drawing and you're drawing a picture. You can't focus on detailing. You have to stay loose. We're going to stay loose and not focus on detailing. Detailing is not important right now. Because if we start detailing, none of this will matter. If it's even the best written thing, if it fucks up and all this becomes irrelevant or doesn't connect, I mean. And it has to connect, otherwise the story's not cohesive. It's called a plot hole. And we have to write, we can use this button here. It's called the, I fucked up. Let's just say the warp did it. And they'll make it, the warp can just literally fix all your problems. Quite literally, actually. I don't think warp can do time travel, though. That's the one thing it can't fix.
Yes, it can.
All right, so the warp can literally, if I fuck up really bad, the warp can be like, don't worry, bro, I got you. It's like, let's put some duct tape over it.
Some random fucking cat girl fell through the warp, and that's how we get to Arith.
Wow.
Yeah, she just landed.
Wrote all of this for fucking nothing. Nice.
Can you just imagine her landing in the lap of the Emperor, and he just looked at her, and she just goes,
now I have a little bit of autism. Autism.
You know what? That wouldn't be Arith. Arith would probably just insult him and then realize what he does, and then.
Alright, now that you've done making little gay noises, let's focus on... Okay, so she got to get past quarantine, right? Now, actually, before we put another plot chunk in, I had put up a vote on one of the plot chunks that we're going to have to put in.
I was going to ask about that.
This would actually be kind of cool to interact with the audience. Why does it say sign in there? What the fuck? Whatever. Let's go see. Hold on, it wants me to vote. Okay, can you go look? I don't want to log in here.
Yeah, hold on.
Because if I vote, it'll not be counted. I will go through the comments though after we're done. I'll re-go through them again.
Open up your page. Come
I'm pretty
on.
sure it's a less on the nose approach, which I actually like that people went with this one, because if it was up to me, I would have picked this one right here. It's not too big and it's not too small that she could squeak her way past the quarantine maybe.
At 43%, a noble or grand admiral's daughter. The next
Yay.
closest one is a tie at 22%.
And what's that tie between? I'm curious.
Religious heritage or lower than a pleb.
Lower than a pleb? Oh my god. I put that in there because I was kind of curious if I could write past that, but like I've been thinking about that off and on all day. I can't think of a good explanation. I can think of a bunch of ones, like she was sold as a slave, that's one. She was, abducted to be fucking have her cat ear snipped off or some shit. I don't know. There's a couple of shit I could come up with, but none of it I like because it's too. It's not interesting.
Somehow at
This
1%,
one's nice.
someone said at 1%, someone said she's a princess.
That would also be hard to write, both of those, because that means she's like a fucking princess, right? So they're gonna have keeping tabs on her, like the Felinid government, and anybody in the immediate vicinity would recognize her. That'd be pretty hard to write for. Also, I personally don't think it fits the personality, but I can think of a way to make her personality warp into what we wanted. Warp. Deus Ex Machina. Get it? That was a terrible joke. I'm going to go hang myself. All right, so. Boopity boop.
After the stream, though.
Do it now.
The slave route would probably be pretty rapey, honestly. Because the only thing I can think of...
honestly don't see how it couldn't go that way.
Because the only reason why... Okay, let's think of a super rich person, just hypothetically. Why would you want a specific type of abhuman? Well, perhaps they do certain things, right? But why would you want
a different reason?
A quarantined one? A one that's quarantined, that means if anyone catches you with this thing in your possession, which also I'm pretty sure that as a slave, that might also cause some bad stuff. What?
Honestly, a less rapey answer could be just because they're exotic, and that means they have the wealth to show up their fellow like-minded individuals.
Yes, okay, so you could have her as a maid, I guess, and be like, look at that. I have exotic abhumans doing my fucking chores and shit. There's a fucking squat, working on his car, and then there's a Neko maid. Look at that.
If you didn't want to go that route, that would be.
It's already kind of weird still because it's down that creepy path, the path of creepiness.
I mean, to be fair, people that rich in Warhammer tend to be very creepy anyway. So I mean, it's not.
Yes. Also, they normally have life extensions and they get bored.
Yeah.
Let us see. Okay, so the quarantine. How she gets past the quarantine?
Not creepy in fucking Warhammer. Everyone chose Joe Biden.
Okay, Now, modern politics don't matter, Furman. Let's see. What do we need to have happen here? Well, the next plot chunk we need is the reunification. Because they need to be reunified with the Imperium. Now, the reason why we want this to happen during the Great Crusade is because the Great Crusade era of the Imperium is much more, not only just tolerant, but they're also much more understanding. And even then, in this period, they're actually relatively retarded. I'd argue they're borderline barbarians, but it's the better option than doing this one, which would be pretty bad. And so instead, what the Felinids were going to have happen is actually they're going to get their asses handed to them by the crustacean people. And so you'll get a bunch of either the Imperial Army or whatever, or the Space Marines, whichever. They're going to come in and save the day. They're going to be the big heroes, because the Felinids are actually going to be the more civilized and more orderly, because they have the most humanistic traits. Also, they'll be spared because basically the Emperor... I mean, look, he was sparing all sorts of weird mutants, and how we have them set up is they're not even that mutated, so it's not that big of a deal. Okay, so what other plot chunks we need? We need the reunification, where they make contact. Or no, wait, no, that actually been broken up into two. When they're actually reunified, it actually be an event, right? And then first contact.
Yeah.
With the Imperium. When the Imperium makes first contact, that's another plot chunk there. 2 plot chunks, okay. Really good, really good. Gonna move these over a little. Okay, we've got 4 chunks to work with, but I feel like we're still missing something here. We need conflict. These two are gonna fight each other. We're gonna have a war. We don't need to worry about naming things, and honestly, remember, stay loose when making your story. If you have an idea, go ahead and put it in. No problem. But stay loose. Don't bog yourself down on the little details. Because what you'll do is you'll stress yourself out and you'll get stuck on something small when you should be thinking grandiose. So, they have a war. They boop each other in the snoot. That's fucking adorable. This war goes on, right? And if we're already in the 31st millennium, we could say that this war happened... Okay, because this isn't actually a timed event. This actually needs a time. So let's give it a year date, right? When did the Imperium, canonically, when did the Great Crusade happen? When did it start? Was there an actual official date? Because then we can have a timeline to work with when at the 31st millennium. Oh, wait, that's one other thing I forgot. We're going to need the Horus Heresy. What did the Felinids do during the Horus Heresy? Maybe nothing. Maybe they didn't do anything. The Horus Heresy didn't envelop every world. But maybe it did. This is an important event. There we go.
Is it an important event in the Imperium, or is it an important event for the Felinids, though?
It's an important event for the Felinids, because this will determine a few factors. Did the Felinids do questionable things that made the Imperium go like, hey, you know, maybe we should fucking just glass you little shits? Or were they helpful? Or did nothing happen at all? It's a plot chunk, and a plot chunk can be removed or added to. It just needs to be there. Debating whether or not it should be there is really irrelevant, because we know that this is an event that happens in this time period, and it is a very, very, very important event, and it should, and no, it will be listed, because we need to talk about what they're doing when this is going on. That way, it gives context to where they're at. Whether or not they're fighting in the Horus Heresy or not, for all intents and purposes, they can have nothing to do with it. But it's like, okay, what were they doing during the Horus Heresy? Well, they were just fucking rebuilding. All right, there, now we know. Simple. Did they get attacked? Did they not? I mean, if they got attacked, more than likely they get their fucking asses kicked, considering the state that they're in. But, you know, they have a few thousand years or a few hundred years to recuperate, assuming that the Imperium finds them. Actually, no, it's important to figure out, okay, when does the Imperium make contact? When do they lend assistance? Because the minute they do, that changes a lot. It also determines how long we have until the Horus Heresy. Because once the Horus Heresy happens, the Imperium's probably not going to be able to lend aid if they haven't finished off the crustacean things. The former humans. Boopity boop boop boop. So let's go to Google and look at the wiki. Be a wiki weeb. Something that I normally don't want to do, but I don't own the source books, and I'm not going to pirate them because I have morals. Warhammer Great Crusade. Let's find something that says an approximation of when it happened, and then let's find an approximation when the Horus Heresy happened. Because those are the 2 time things we need to worry about.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, no, we just need an approximation. Normally 40k said... I mean, look, we already have an approximation. I'm just wondering if we can work it down. This is already enough to work with, Fairman. We have 10,000 years to work with.
For 10,000 years.
For 10,000 years, a lot of stuff. Let's see, okay, so... what does circa 700 mean? Like, is that 100 years? When it says CA 790 M30. M30 is for the 31st millennium. 790 means what? That it's just...
s- 90,000 and then 700 in the year M 39,790.
Here's the problem, though. Oh, it goes to... Actually, no, that doesn't make any sense. Because then the numbers change. So it says CA circa 004.M31 down here. And then there's 004-009.M31, which is 31st. How do they do timelines? Why couldn't they just write it like normal human beings? They have to do it.
Well, it's a notation in regards to this. You know that this part of the number is going to stay the same, so you kind of cut that part out, and then here's the relevant bits.
Okay.
Relevant.
Chat
Yes.
says it means 30,077,990. Okay, so we
Yeah,
have an
I'm fine
approximation.
with
We in fact the chronology actually isn't that bad. I'm gonna pull it up here, and chat, correct us if this is wrong, because wikis are not. We'll take it worth a grain of salt, but it's better than having nothing, right? Okay, I'm gonna put chat back. Put them back in their place. Back where you belong. Like, no, not the dumpster. That'll teach them. All right, just stick their little heads out. Okay, so this is the approximation, right? Unknown insurrection date, unknown date. Okay, so we have an unknown date. 800s, 803. Okay, so the time's going up. 805, 806, 807, 830. Just trying to see how far we can... Actually, wait, no, does the Great Crusade begin where? Okay, so Primarch Project begins... Which initially begun... Okay, so this is when the Primarchs begin, right? Pacification of Luna. Okay, 790. Okay, so that's going on at this point here. Incalidation conflict. Departure of the Great Crusade begins in 798. 798. That is something we need to note down. Okay. And then let's just move this over here. Let's make some documents, some notes on times. Okay, so the 30,798. The Great Crusade is launched. They want to go out and find the lost fragments of humanity along with the Primarchs. The question is, when do they find the Felinid world? Is there a existing date? Was that ever marked? Go double check while I read through this.
Based on the one bit of official word you gave or you sent, no.
They have no date, so we have to come up with a date in which they're found, as well as who found them. That means, do we have an idea on where the legions were in the space? Or do we have an idea where Carlos McConnell is? No, I don't think we do. Carlos McConnell is not listed as a location anywhere, so we'd have to make up where and who found it first. What sector of the Imperium is Carlos McConnell in? Where were they? When were they found? And by whom were they found? Legion, or was it an Imperial army? Honestly, it'd be kind of more interesting if the Imperial army was the thing that stumbled on them, as they were that backwater. Because if the Felinids are such a little footnote, then we should make them a little footnote. They shouldn't be like, oh, Horus found him himself back when he was a nice guy, or when he was a mean guy. If he was a mean guy, they probably would have gotten fucking slaughtered. And maybe they will.
Or used.
Yeah, something like that. Honestly, they're not valuable, but they are mutated, so I don't know. Okay. Let's see. Bickering bunch is the boomer. Am I a boomer? Maybe. Maybe I'm actually older. In fact, I like to lie and say I am. Nice.
I
Consider
just want
that.
to be an old man.
I'll consider that a success for my part. All right, so more importantly, 807, 829, 830. It just goes back and forth for the timelines. It's not progressive. Let's see. I'm hoping it just keeps going. 900s. There we go. 900s, the establishment of the Temple of the Savior Emperor. A highly decorated Imperial army officer takes something, blah, 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 meaning profit. Uh-oh. You know, he's a naughty boy. Emperor's like, oh, I don't like it. Kalek genocide, blah, blah, blah. Battle of Sigma, blah, blah, blah. Lord Gardinel, blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. Discovery of Cadia. Wow. The planet broke before the guard did, guys. Start crying.
Imperial
Start
noises.
screaming.
Imperial not loyalist noises.
That's the spirit, you little fucking slut. Now, M30. Okay, so it went to 0. If it's 0 here, that means it should be like 1,000, 1,000. Like, I don't quite get that. Also, it's not that I'm a boomer. I'm an American. We lead left to right. Read left to right. Fuck! Words. Bearers of Bearer Legion. Word Bearer Legion. Oh my god, they're doing stuff. What are they doing? Stuff? Probably? Okay, so I think we're in 1001. Oh no, there, it switched over here. Okay. Whew. I was a little worried there. Why is it 000 there? That's weird. It's like 30,000 flat. It's like, it's not how that works. I don't know. So anyways, we're back. We're in the 31st millennium now. Whew. Alright, cleansing, blah, blah, blah. Bunch of useless stuff. Some orgies with astropaths and navigators, I think. Compliance of some other shit. Oh no, the page has stopped loading, guys. We're making so much progress. I'm sad. This website's kind of poopy scoopy. Alright, so we were at, or no, wait, what? Oh, what? Okay, well that's weird. Fuck it, just start working now. I'm trying to find out when the Horus Heresy is. Ah! Istvan Extremis. This is when that stuff happened. Emperor's children fought in the concert with the Death Guard. Blah, blah, blah. Bunch of useless garbage. Blah, blah, blah. More useless information. What? But it doesn't tell me nothing. Alright, maybe we need the Horus Heresy chronology. Horus Heresy chronology, please. Timeline. There.
Maybe
The
they put
Lexicanum.
it
Those are the
touched-
books, though! Oh my god. God, they're really milking that, aren't they? Disgusting.
Just a bit.
Just
Just a bit.
Hey, guys, let's make this story fucking massive. Why would we do that? Money. Money!
Cause we're Games Workshop.
Games Workshop likes to milk out everything. Alright, so. Oh, it started in 005 in the 31st millennium. Oh, that's when it started? Okay. So 005, or so 31005. Like a normal person. Like, this is how you write numbers, Games Workshop. They're like, no. Fucking British cunts. Alright, so now that the British must be abolished.
Like I said,
abolish
there is a reason to potentially do a different notation, but
Also, kids, they abolishing themselves, so you don't need to get active there.
Wow, the Great Crusade doesn't happen for that long. I thought it was like hundreds and hundreds of years. Fuck. That's very short. How fast do they move again? How fast? I thought the Great
As
Crusade
fast-
went on for hundreds and hundreds of years, almost 1,000 years at least. Wow.
it happens
Games
as
Workshop
fast as
is
the warp wants it to happen.
Fucking milking that timeline. All right, so. Right. Okay, so the Horus Heresy happens in 1005 because reasons. Because Horus got poked with a stick and got super sad. And he's like, I'm super sad now, but I'm evil, and he's a bad guy. And then, God, it was so dumb.
It was funnier than that. He got poked with a stick and then blamed the Emperor for it.
He's like, Daddy did it to me. And it's like, oh my God, I felt like I was reading a teen drama, except like with big, powerful guys in power armor, which were really cool. Like, characters like Loken and shit were cool. But I honestly think I hate the Primarchs after reading the books. I fucking despise them. They're not humans. They're like children. And not just children of the Emperor, like little babies. They're very, very,
Is it really that bad?
very emotional. Read it. No. I'm not going to tell you whether it's bad or not because it's subjective. That's how stories work. Read it and find out. I'd say read it because they are good reads. There's lots of good stuff. There is, lots of interesting stuff that happens, but the Primarchs themselves, I find were laughable, for me at least. I didn't enjoy them. I was actually
haven't read them, so couldn't say.
I was actually so disappointed that I actually stopped reading Warhammer altogether. The books, at least, and that was after reading things like Last Chancers. Last Chancers is a book written by Gav Thorpe, and he is a notoriously bad writer. It's just... Also, I'm pretty sure he's extraordinarily SJW. I'm not sure if that ties together with that. What am I doing? What's happening? Get a little sidetracked with ranting.
It should have read Sapphire's Cane instead.
Should have read that. I never read that. I did read Felix and Gotrek. Great omnibus series. Highly recommend it. Warhammer Fantasy books are better than 40k books. Fight me.
Felix and Gotrek are nice.
Would you say that's just because fantasy is a more intriguing setting?
It might be because the fantasy setting, there are better written characters in it. Doesn't necessarily mean it's perfect. No, there are some books that are kind of mediocre. Just like BattleTech has the fucking No Country for fucking Old Men or whatever the fuck it's called with space chickens, and it's really dumb.
What?
Look, you can read it yourself, and you'll be like, wow, there are space chickens. He wasn't fucking kidding. There's actually space chickens in BattleTech. And I was like, yeah, oh, space chickens.
Somewhere.
I mean, the problem with big universes is every big universe has, too many books, and the problem with more books is the more likely you're going to have bad books. The bigger you go. It happens. It's whatever. 40k honestly has a better track record than BattleTech. That's not hard, though, because BattleTech did shit out books like left and right, and some of those books were like, whoa. They were pretty shoddy. Pretty shoddy. It's like the author didn't even know what the source material was. It's like, so you know how there's feudalism in space? Well, I'm just going to pretend that doesn't exist. Some of those books do that.
Oh, wow.
Don't worry about it.
It was a different time.
It was like the 1970s or 80s or whatever. It was a long time ago, before I was alive. All right, so the war happens. Nekos are dying. They're fighting fucking crab people and stuff. Wow, that's really cool, Kibbs. You're practically like Matt Ward. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate that. All right, now that I want to commit suicide. First contact with the Imperium. Okay, so the war happens. Honestly, we can surmise this because we can say that information was suppressed. We can always add more story later. And then there's something that's going to have to happen here. First contact with the Imperium. But, actually, no, wait. It's not going to be directly because... not because of the war. It would be more so connected to the Felinids, technically.
Well, then my question would be, would first contact happen
later,
in the middle of the conflict between the
yes,
Felinids and then
while the
crab people?
conflict is ongoing? So this can happen like over here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to slide this over and give us some space. Slide these over, get them out of the way. Scoot your Tushies over there. All right, then we can elaborate, right? Poof, look at that. We don't even need really to tie them in, except maybe we can make like a bubble like, hey, you're extinct now. Because fuck you. Let us see. What else can we do? Okay, so war happens. The Felinids get their fucking little cattails snipped off. Badly. Because they're going to have to get their asses kicked. Honestly, I think it's better to have them have a losing war. So basically, okay, so...
I mean, to be fair, it makes sense that the Felinids to be the ones losing, considering the crustaceans can go... assuming you actually want to keep the crustacean idea, they have way more territory that they can potentially inhabit.
Okay, let's...
And it's easier to strike from water to land than the other way around.
Imperium Aid. No, I'll just say Imperial Aid, because that just sounds better than Imperium Aid. It's technically the same thing. You get the gist. We'll revise the names later. Okay, and this can tie in precisely to this, which can lead to victory. We'll give names for it later. And this is an end to the conflict. This also ties into these little fucking crustacean cunts, because they're going to go extinct. I like the idea of that. Tie that in. Okie dokie. Put little arrows here. That way, it's mostly so that when we release the public version, so you guys can download it, if for those of you who get Campfire, you can try it for yourself, look at it, and revise it, and write it how you want to write it, too. Work with it. Do what I'm doing with Warhammer 40k. Make this your own thing. That could be like a homework assignment, almost. Make this your own. Go through this and take out what you don't like and put in what you want. Make it your own. Kill off the Felinids. Fuck them. Make the fucking crustaceans the good guys. The lobsters. All right. The lobsters win instead. The Nekos are wiped out, and instead it's the lobsters going around saving people. I don't know why, but I like the idea that they're fucking crustaceans, because I imagine, like, the little Felinids shooting at them with guns, and for whatever reason, whatever bullshit, their shells are super duper tough. Bubbles would fucking smack me for saying this. They're super tough shells, and they're, like, bulletproof. You'd be like, Kyle, you're so dumb. That doesn't make any sense. I'm like, yeah, no, it doesn't. Yeah, no, but it's cool.
Oh, you're one of those writers.
No. I'm only for this story. Leave me alone. Look, this is the place where I can take a time to have fun with the story. It's a fanfic. I can explore stuff.
Did you just say that this is your safe space?
This is my safe space. Yeah, fuck you. The victory will lead into the reunification of the Nekos, and as they're used for procreation. What? Don't worry about it. They produce litters for whatever reason. That wouldn't make any sense because basically they have the human anatomical structure. Why would they produce litters? They need more mammary glands to support more children.
Humans can technically produce litters. It's called twins or quadruplets.
No, but that's rare.
So
So
they could just.
Fairman, I was kidding because that would actually be dumb though.
They could just have the genetic disposition to.
That means we're gonna need to give them tons of boobies, and I don't like that because it's not aesthetically pleasing.
You wouldn't need to give them that, kids. Just say they have a higher chance of that, and fuck.
Yeah, but now they're making too many children, and that actually has to be written in there, and that's gonna be like a thing. And then they're probably gonna be like China, and they're gonna be like, hey, no, you can't have sex that much because we don't.
Wow. Kids,
you're gonna make like 1 billion babies. Why are you saying wow? That is something that would probably happen. Fairman's like, I am dumb. That's what he meant to say. Hurt Fairman's feelings. Alright, so, shut up.
You are dumb.
Now, they reunify with the Imperium. What would happen? Alright, so, Imperium rule, right? So what would happen during the Imperium side? So, Imperium rule. We'll just call it that.
I would imagine the Imperium itself would want to survey the planet to see what they can get out of it.
Yes, but that's details. We'll get what happens there. That'd be more of like a split bubble. And then we can probably be like, what happens during the Horus Heresy? What happens after the Horus Heresy? Because apparently there's 31 fucking thousand years only in. And that means that there's literally 9,000 years to write for. 9,000 fucking cunting years. I just wrote 10,000 years of lore, and I had to bullshit my way through that. That wasn't easy.
In this 9,000 years, nothing happened. Everyone went on vacation.
That's an example of bad writing. Something is happening at all times. Every generation. Technically, I skimmed so much. This is 10,000 years, 20,000 to 30 fucking cunting thousand.
I will remind you of something that you said near the beginning. Games Workshop is not paying you.
They're not.
So
I don't have to. I do what I want. Leave me alone. All right, so now that I've told them what I do what I want.
Okay, Hans, we're supposed to leave him alone. I guess that means
shut up, Hans. Or Fairman.
Hey, Hans, shut up. He doesn't want you here.
Fairman, shut up. I don't want you here, Fairman. Leave.
Okay.
Bye. He's sad now. He's like, why you do this to me? Alright, so, more importantly. Fuck. It keeps zooming all over the place. Okay. We're going to write some stuff that happens, because I hate how the Horus Heresy is like, lol, happened, and then it's like, skip, skip.
Okay, well then, considering that at some point the planet has to be quarantined.
Yes.
Perhaps
the Age of Degradation.
Well, I was going to suggest that perhaps during the heresy, maybe it was discovered that not all the crustaceans were dead, or something like that, or maybe it could have been a.
Don't worry about it. We'll fix it later. But fix it later, we probably will forget. That's what I'll leave chat. When chat downloads it and has to work on this, I'll like fix my fucking mistakes, and I'll be like, you want it. Okay, so reunification happens. Reunification happens. We need a year date. So war happens right about. Fuck it. The war happens practically. We'll give it like a decade or two. So 29,000. No, wait, no. This isn't 31st millennium. I'm gonna skip because I can. Fuck you. 30,000. 30,000. Oh. Fuck it. It's just one. This is as low as we can put it. There. We got a war happening. Bad stuff. They're duking it out now. They're tired of each other's shit. And then the victory needs to happen when they make contact. They will make contact. Okay, what was the document say? 30,000. Okay, let's shoot for the... Okay, how many years do we want for them to be under Imperium rule? Well, that could be very interesting to write for. So, we will actually give them at least a century. So we're going to go... Let's see... 39,900. Yes, I like that. 39,900 something. 912, because why not? Shooting a ballpark. Always fix it later. There. Look at that. Bam. War happens. Wait, 39,000. What am I doing here? I was like, wait a minute. That's one long war. Holy shit. I mean, that's already long, though. Oh my god. I fucking did that backwards. I just realized what I did wrong. It's a 0. There we go. Fixed it. 900 years of getting their asses kicked. Damn, you gotta be tough, guys. Tough little neckos.
If you're gonna be dumb, you gotta be tough.
Nice.
Oh, he even says it was a conventional war.
What are we talking about, little slut? And then victory can happen like maybe a decade later. So it takes 10 years to win the war. So obviously Space Marines aren't going to arrive. Because I don't like the idea of Space Marines arriving because it makes the conflict too easy. More interesting to have human characters than Space Marines. So we're going to have it be... So 922. Let's just go in flat decade. 10 years of fighting to expunge them. Then there's going to have to be diplomacy stuff. Now, the Imperium, I'd imagine, would be patient-ish. But I'd imagine it wouldn't take too long. I'd imagine maybe 2 years. Considering the fact that the Felinids are in tatters. In fact, I'd argue that it wouldn't even be then. I'd argue that it would be the same year, actually.
Well, I mean,
because
the Imperium
would be like
their war.
relief aid if you become part of our empire. And the Nekos are like, well, our governments have collapsed, and the government that remains is in fucking tatters, and everything is shitty. So they will join officially on the year of their victory celebration. And there'll be a big party and a big old orgy, because that's how that works. It'll be great. We'll need Rule 34.
That is how you make chaos gods.
Don't worry about it. Beke. It's not how you make chaos gods. It's only if you get really weird with it.
And even then, that's only a specific one.
And cat girls are not fake weird.
Look at that, guys. We're canon now. All right, GW. Scooch over. I'm like, no, don't write the
This
fluff.
is not fucking canon.
It's like start erasing stuff. Like, no! I'd erase the fucking Fall of Cadia. I'd erase like half of it and be like, okay, we'll stop. In fact, you know what I'd do? I'd probably start from scratch purely because, like, the idea of doing... Erase the Emperor. I would do it and I would stream it. I'd be like, it's just like being an eraser and then say Emperor and like, yes, it just wipes it away.
Mr. Emperor, I don't feel so good.
Look, I'd have to rework it because that's how I do it. Because I don't know. The idea of jumping into a project and being like, oh, you know, you have to use all this fucking shit everywhere. And it's like, clean that shit up. It's everywhere. It's a mess. And I get triggered. I already am upset. I'm already upset writing this fanfic because the fluff is a mess. The wikis actually do... Okay, Warhammer wikis get the props of... They actually organize stuff fairly well. They're better than the Battletech ones. The Battletech ones are notoriously bad. Don't use them. Don't use them unless you're just too lazy to read through the book. Alright, so now that we've erased Cadia, people are like, oh no, it's not Cadia, it's Cadia. But it's Cadia in my fluff. Because it's actually Nekos.
It's where they kick the Felinids off their world and
Okay. Oh, that would be shitty, though. Katie's a shithole.
but they just pretend like they're all quarantined on their home world. Really, they just move them all to Cadia.
It's like, it's Katia. It's time for you to get over there.
It's cat, yeah.
The Emperor arrives on the
was the
Felinid
joke.
homeworld. Well, it seems like the population was improved a little bit. No, I'm kidding. All right, so. Okay, now I have a little bit of autism. So, 2001, right? 900 years of war. That's going to be a grueling conflict. And considering they'd already built large bastion defenses on the island, which were already designed to repel naval invasions, that's perfect, actually. That means that they would eventually lose the war, but it'd be a long war that'd be lost. One thing I'm kind of curious is how would the underwater cities fall? That'd be cool. Because I like the idea of having underwater, like, biodomes, and I imagine the crustaceans would be like, lol, as they just crack it open, and the little Nekos and are like, no, sadness, they're going to drown. All right, I've just made myself sad because they're all dead now.
Mm.
Okay. Quarantined. Wow, okay, so the quarantined, and then what is it like in the quarantine? I'm just literally going to say, what is it like in the quarantine? For the next fucking 10 or 9,000, 9K-ish years. Actually, no, it'd technically be 10K-ish because 41st millennium, 41,000. 10,000 years they're going to be quarantined, relatively. Okay, that's not that bad. We can summarize a lot of stuff up. Oop. And fuck it. Connect that. And no. Because we'll need to do a description of what is it like in the 41st millennium. Did it change? What changed? If nothing, what people lived that mattered did something. Something happened. Something happened of importance. There's always something that happened. That's how the world works. If you ever look at anything, something happened because somebody had to do something. That is the constant variable. That is just how the world works. It's someone did something at some point.
Someone is always doing something unless they're dead, and even then they're rotting.
Even then, there's something happening. And that is a story for you, or at least a universe. Okay, so crab people. Right. I like the idea of okay. In the spirit of Games Workshop, I'm going to pull a GW and not write them. Why? Because now I'm going to leave it up to the interpretation. It'll be like this section of the lore, like the Horus Heresy, where people are like, what happened? Did Horus really twist his nipples before dying? Nobody knows. You know, maybe give it a little twist. He might have, okay? You don't know that.
Nobody want to know
You
about
don't
Horus.
Gibbs, don't be gay.
It gave him a left and a righty, you know? And the Emperor just tweaked his left one, and then he died. Like,
I think we need to put him down, man.
Look, tweaking thine holy nipples is important. Okay, I'm liking this. I'm digging this. I feel like we've done it, guys. I feel like we have an idea of why there are Nekos in Warhammer, almost. Sort of. Kind of. Maybe.
And I just had to explain why your specific retarded Neko got into it.
So, Felinid abhumans, right? Okay, let's go back before we start adding fluffy bits. The Unending War. The various governments engaged in a bitter war with one another. It finally collapsed. Don't worry about the grammar or spelling. That was me typing really fast to get through this. The war dragging on from one extreme entrenchment of the Isles to another. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so this kind of matters, though. The escalation. Following a year of the World War. So, in the fall... Okay, you stupid retard. In the following year... That's not even correct, but that'll work for now. And remember, the idea of using campfire is it doesn't necessarily have to be grammatically correct, though honestly, you should make it so. And one way to do that is to plunk it out and put it in a word. It's just better to do it that way. But I use it as a framework. The idea is that It's like, okay, I get the idea when looking at this. I can go and write the script for that character. I can go and write the scene for that character. I can write the screenplay for that. It's basically your notes. And the idea is that, oops, sorry, I bumped my mic. The idea is that you can use this to craft a story or a universe. No one, and I say this seriously, no one should ever see under the hood of your story. If you're making one, you should always have, like, this document should be burned before it sees, the light of day. Now, you shouldn't do that because this is actually a lore Bible to a degree. You can use this to operate your story off of. And if you make like let's say we wanted to, let's make an example, right? This is a lore Bible. This is what this is right now. I want to write an RPG game set in this timeline, right? But I kind of want to pick a certain part. Well, what would be a good part for a game? Would it be this? No, not really. It's not a lot of combat going on there. Like, what would be like, this could be interesting. Flashpoints, all right. The build up to the night, and then followed by the big war, the world war, or the war against the cults. That could be interesting. This could make a really cool game, this whole couple-year period here. What would be another good part for, like, an RPG game? Here would be another good one, this war. Maybe this would be, like, a good shooter, an RTS or something. And then, or maybe write from their different perspective. Write from the perspective of the Imperium coming in. So the game starts from the perspective of the Imperium, coming here, and you have to basically lend aid to a slow losing battle, and sort of turn the tide. That's the idea. See you later, James.
Bye, Jan.
He's had a good day. That's a super squeckle question. Squeckle? Squeakle? Is that what you're trying to say? Okily dokily. So, next thing we need to worry about is we kind of still need to get to Arith and how she matters, right? Well, let's actually beef up the fluff here, because I do think we need to beef it up. Okay, we're going to read through this. It's going to be pretty poorly written, but let's go and check. And let's not bog down with editing. We can edit later. Okay, so the various governments engaged in a bitter war with one another to finally collapse. The war digging on from the extreme entrenchment of the Isles, basically referencing the fact that the islands are extremely defensive. While some weapons of mass destruction were used, it is apparent that neither side wanted to risk total annihilation, as they wanted to live. That's a key fundamental fact there. It is important to note that, and that also is important to note because now you know how far they're willing to go. They don't want to mutual asserted destruction, but they are willing to use it to a degree. They're willing to go that far, but they're not willing to jump or make that jump to use all of it or go all out. Now, what else can we deter? It is important to note that conflict on large scale ceased over 1,000 years ago. Wait, did I actually put this into the wrong section? It's Quint's eyes. Oh, no. Yeah, no, this is the war. Yeah, no, so large scale conflicts ceased 1,000 years ago. Right? So the idea is that they basically sort of wore down their equipment and industrial capacity via bombing, strategic bombing, things like that. Factories are in tatters by this point. The ability to produce ships, dockyards are in ruins. So they're still fighting each other, but with like little patrol boats now, or smaller scale. Right? While the overarching governments would collapse, the local administrations on the various islands would survive relatively undamaged. So, yes, the big governments such as, the Shogunate or the Dominion, the Rhodesia, they would collapse. Culminated with the escalation of the lethality of every generation, save for the stabilizer. Okay, I'll just make a note here. Mutation, so I remember that. Yeah, so this is talking about the fact that every generation gets progressively less stable as the mutations get worse and worse per generation. The only two variants that stabilized were the Forgotten Ones and the Felinid abhumans. And you can always say that there were more and you just discover them later on. That's something you can do. Or that it was expunged for whatever reason. But, it's important to try to, at least in your own lore Bible, have it planned out ahead of time. So if you had like a secret third mutation that was actually stabilized, then you should write that down in here. You don't have to necessarily show it to people. You should know that information. Okay, so one thing we should read is this as well. This is also important. In the following year of the World War, the mutations begin to escalate in lethality. That has to do with the fact that we've tethered that to the warp, and so because it's an infliction and the veil is thin between the warp and reality, As the conflict rises, so too do those emotions fuel into that sort of warpy, weird nonsense that happens. And therefore, lethality, because of mutations, begin to escalate because the conflict is happening. As they escalate, doctors believe they found 2 semi-stable variations. Variation mutation number 17, 17 being the feline-like one. And then variation number 1017, because there's over 10,000 mutation variations that we've created. Or not created, but we've alleged to. And we alleged that during the Blight, if I remember right. Let's double check. On the turning of the 25th millennium, the peoples of McConnell would refer to the mutations that had only escalated since the beginning of what was now known as the Age of Nightmares as the Blight. So that's what they refer to the mutations. They think it's sort of like a disease. By this point, pure humans had ceased to exist entirely. There were a total of over 10,000 variations and unstable mutations. Attempts were made, but to little avail, and I'm going to correct myself there because I fucked up that entire sentence and pretty much everything there. Utilizing advanced medical technology to stem the mutations, no treatment, drugs, nor surgeries could reverse the genetic damage. The idea with this plot section is this is kind of tethering to the warp shenanigans. I'm not going to connect it there because this whole line is connected to shenanigans. And so, yeah, no, this whole plot line is referring to the warperies going on here. Bigger Munch, if it's a warp-related mutation, why are they sanctioned? Well, that's a good question. They don't know. They don't. And that is the key part here. That is the key part.
We shouldn't have gone with the whole warp-related thing, I think.
What? No, that's fine. In fact, I think that's more interesting. Are you kidding me? Think about it. Their entire premise is they're keeping that kind of under wraps because they don't want to get exterminated. And not that many people would retain that knowledge by the time they arrived. When did they make contact? When does it happen, Fairman? Their governments officially collapsed in 29,876. The Imperium arrives 1,000 years later.
1,000 years.
Well,
More
honestly,
than-
and if they're honestly not even considering the warp as a possibility for
Yeah,
why
they
they're
have
mutating,
no... Yeah, exactly. They
they
wouldn't
could
know.
just say they could just say it's like around this time there was a lot of fucking weird mutations going on.
The Imperium would have their suspicions, which could tie into why they quarantined the planet, because they're uncertain. Now, in actuality, yes, the Felinids are a mutation because of the warp. And in reality, because the Warhammer 40k timeline only spans 40,000 years, every single abhuman is a mutation. There is no way you could evolve unless you did it through genetic manipulation. That's the only way. Richard Porter says, it was the Emperor's private retreat. Hashtag catgirls. Hashtag, you're probably right. That's true. But yeah, no, Fairman, I think it's more interesting that we actually have them be mutants. Like, unofficially. Also, yeah, no, you can't evolve within 10,000 years to be so drastically different like the Minotaurs. Come on. The Minotaurs, Fairman. Fairman don't want to talk about it. He's like, oh, poops, I lost this beetle. Right.
No.
Wrong series.
What was that, Fairman? Or hands?
No.
I said wrong series.
Yeah, they had Minotaurs, though.
No, it's the inflection you put. Never mind.
Shut up.
No.
You ruined the joke.
Your joke is dumb.
Nice work,
Which is why I ruined it for you. You're welcome. You can hashtag like, comment, and subscribe to me, Hands. He's like, oh, shit. It's that... What's that phrase? Smash that like button. Bash that subscribble button.
Okay,
No, wait, no.
should-
We fucked up. You gotta hit the bell. Fuck. We screwed up. We screwed up. It's not the order.
Was I also adding to this?
Yes, you were.
Uh-huh.
I'll write it in the timeline. Don't worry about it. 21,000 or 2019. Hands did a bad. All right, so back to fluff writing. Let us make things happen. Right, so the war happens. Felinid abhumans. Let's briefly describe the Felinids. And this blurb will actually just describe them. The Felinids... Actually, no, let's be a little bit more sexy about this, right? Let's do sexy stuff, guys. Like, what? What's wrong with him? That's a good question.
Squexy.
Okay.
Things is the answer.
Culture. We're kind of going to do a few things here. Religion. I'm going to put that down there. Because they fervently do not believe in religion at this point.
Look what religion did to us, guys. It's dumb.
Well, they blame it. Even though technically speaking it wasn't religion that caused it, it was the cults, which are slightly separate. Because I wrote in this fluff that they basically went around massacring anybody who believed. They got to the point where it was so extreme that not only were they killing people on sight for just the mere suspicion of them believing in God or any religion, they killed their entire families by extension. Or at least within the first extension. So, like, next of kin, killed. And the idea was that they were in such a fervent panic that there was a connection to the cults, because the cults were variations of existing religions, except very extreme. That is that idea. We'll need to flesh out the cults a little bit more, but we'll go back to that. Fervently do not want. Culture, what would fall into culture, and appearances. Appearance. Briefly describe their technology, so we can have an idea of where they stand today. As well as government. This is important, because Arith and her lineage would be more reminiscent. I think Arith's lineage will come out of the war. Specifically, I think out of the losing section of the war, where they'll begin to turn things around, and then with the aid of the Imperial forces, she'll have lineage to people that matter. Now, does Arith necessarily have any immediate lineage that matters? Probably not. They're probably more like figureheads, or public faces at this point, like heroes. It wasn't the religion, just the cults based on them. Kibbs 19 M3. Oh, god damn it. Aturi, you're going to hell.
Also, wouldn't that be a 2?
Technically, they kind of are connected when they put it like that, so I don't know. Either way, I'm speaking fast. So no, Aturi raises a good point. We'll have to ban him for being smart. I don't like it. We don't like smart people around here.
Can't have you be smart, you little shit.
Okay, they would be an emergency coalition government at this point. Because they're fighting a war of extinction. Meaning, parentheses, martial. Defaulting back to the old provisional style of governance, such as using the hierarchical scheme of the Grand Admirals and stuff like that, which was a more martial form. Culture would be... What would the culture be now that they live in an age of shit, right? So it'd be pretty bad. They'd be highly conservative. As well as, not just that, they would also be...
would you say mandatory military service as well?
Yep. Mandatory
General
military
conscription,
service. Which in martial, they have become martial now. Now, because they were big believers in technology and sciences, that would be relegated to a backseat, as I'd imagine they'd start to stagnate, as resources would not be poured into the sciences. Instead, they'd be poured into military.
I mean, that is science of a sort. It's just a very specific kind.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, no, maybe martial sciences, but even so. I'm talking about... Okay, so one thing, I'm going to save that again. What was the percentages of population lost? So they were in the billions at one point. They, in fact, they surpassed Terra. I'm not going to state specific numbers, purely because that information would have been lost, and even in the lore Bible, I don't want to hammer that down, because some stuff is better loose, because you can work with it. Was it in here? No. Okay. Well, either way, they probably have approximately... At one point, I did say they had double the population of Terra. 21st century Terra. So they probably have, 20, maybe 30 million at one point. They lose 95% of that, right? Divide that by the Forgotten Ones, assuming it's a fair split, and the Felinids. And then,
Catgirl genocide.
Don't worry about it. Thanks for the donation, Architect of Fate. When was the Communist People's Uprising over the... Oh, god damn it. Followed by the forced starving of 70% of the population.
The crab people were the communists.
Fortunately, Architect, we don't have to worry about that because the Necos weren't that retarded. They were dumb enough to institute monarchy, though, in approximately 21,007 and 21,012, and they instituted monarchy for the duration of, I don't know, almost 10,000 years.
Yeah, don't worry, it was beaten out of them.
Yes, quite literally. How do those shitty islands have more population than Terra? Ah, that is easy. Number one, we are going to redesign the map. Number two, they also had more habitats. Remembering... Oh, fuck, I forgot to mention. So, in the fluff... Oh, goddamn it, I gotta read more... Okay, hold on. In the fluff that I wrote here, one section, which we'll get back to. I think it's a space race, flashpoints. Fuck is it? It's somewhere... I think it's in this vicinity. During the space race period, they actually have colonies at this point. Now, because of the whole secessionism that happened in the fall of the provisional government, they did not allow the colonies to ever attain autonomy or any sort of level of autonomy. The idea was that they didn't want secessionism spreading.
Right, you can't let them have that autonomy.
Autonomy's bad. Has anyone played Hearts of Iron? You know what I'm talking about. You don't want those little shits escaping. I'd say very minimalistic and regimental in allocation of strategic resources. What about long-eared felinids? They need to go too. Terrible. All right, so actually, you know what? You're right. They would be minimalistic, as they would now be on dire straits. Their society would switch from eccentricity to very
You can just probably summarize that just by saying Spartan living.
Spartan lifestyles.
We be Spartans and shit.
Spartan
no, it's that is a phrase for a type of lifestyle. It's not necessarily referring to Spartans.
Thank you, I'm aware.
Arturia says, you said they were stuck on their planet. Yes, they were stuck on their planet when they were abandoned in 20,376. If you want to really fight me on the next 10,000 years and say that for 10,000 years they sat on a planet and did nothing, go ahead.
10,000 years.
Go ahead and try.
They died.
Honestly, if I was to be a little, if we were to be a little bit more realistic to them and we didn't have the warp thing happen, they would easily have expanded outside their solar system. The reason why they did not is they had too much tension at home, they were not unified, and so resources could not be spent on expanding further. Now, how far did they expand, you ask? Excellent question. Not very. They only expanded their own solar system, and it was only to a couple of moons around their planet. So, not far. Not far at all. And because every single planet in the system is uninhabitable, save for their planet, and we haven't designed out all the planets yet, but they're all going to be uninhabitable for the factor that, number one, we don't want them spreading, we want them contained, and we want it to actually be kind of a sparse region now. A lot of resources have been squandered or used up by this point, so this planet has lost a lot of value as 10,000 years have gone on. So their value will shift. Also, the planetary climate, that's one thing we need to discuss. Probably in a degraded state due to the wars, various weapons and chemicals used. I wonder how that would affect the ocean on an oceanic world. But if we look at our own world, when things like the oil spill happen, they always say like, it'll be there for centuries. And then a month later, there's no evidence that there was ever a spill because the environment tends to gobble up things that people do.
Because people, and there's also a lot of cleanup operations afterwards.
Mm-hmm. It's not even just that. The ocean normally, what's the statistic of how much oil spills into the ocean naturally, and it gobbles up and you never see it?
I
forget the number, but essentially, there's all sorts of microorganisms that do all sorts of stuff, right? Planets and environments are relatively sturdy, and even in a big war, right, you can still have some degradation, and there still is a recovery period. Honestly, I don't think there would be too much. It wouldn't take forever for it to recover in 10,000 years. I don't know. Not sure. It really depends on what extent of what weapons were used. But wouldn't they have simply moved on from planet to colonize moons instead of fighting a losing war? I'm honestly interested, though. I might have missed it. Wait, what?
Maybe they lost space firing technology.
Simple solution, or simple answer, really, to the fact why they didn't continue colonizing is the fact that, they never got a chance to. So let's look through the timeline again. We'll recap because you are curious. So let's look. All right.
Well, honestly, if they're doing a space race and then there's
Well, no,
rival
but
nations,
let's go through the timeline with him so we can kind of see. They did do a space race. They did push out into space. The Cold War officially starts in 22,903 because they started to close the border. They began to close borders to each other as diplomacy just eventually failed altogether. Flashpoints, because of the closed borders and because they start to refuse to communicate with one another, they start having little spats. Border disputes, obviously more so it'd be like fishing rights or whatever, like in our world, maybe over oil rigs or whatever, or various disputed islands, sort of like you get in Southeast Asia, to reference our world. And then what you have happen, not that long later, but then again, if you want to be realistic here, look, that's practically 1,000 years. No, it's actually less than 1,000 years. Okay, well, it's 500 years. That's a long time. You get the screaming terror, which happens, which is the night in which everything goes to shit. And then following that day, everything gets progressively worse. So you have the Age of Nightmares, which begins. Mutations begin happening. The War on Gods, which is basically every nation diverting all resources to fighting the cults as well as suppressing religions. That only escalates for the next couple thousand years, and it finally ends in a godless world. But you still, the problems aren't stopped there. While this is going on, things are pretty bad. Everyone at this point is mutated to a degree or has some sort of tumor or cancer. So everyone's kind of dying, but in various levels. So some generations would be stable for certain sections, depending on what it was. And we'll get to that. We'll elaborate on various mutations. But basically, it gets worse. After this happens, we get a relatively small section of stability, to a degree. A few years after they finish up that, they dismantle the League of Nations, and because their militaries are fully built up and everything's ready to rock and roll, the tension sort of resumes in this period. It sort of goes back to pre-Cold War standards. And then it eventually erupts once a border dispute, I forget who happens. Arcadia is invaded by the Shogunate, yep, and basically the war kicks off. And then every other nation sort of attacks each other. Like the Tsardom attacks the Shogunate of Kaledora, and then Rhodesia attacks not only Arcadia, but then the fucking Ruski lads, because they're vulnerable, trying to snatch up territories, and they do for a while. And the war goes back and forth. Then the Unending War, but because this is going on, now this wasn't that bad. Imagine this is escalating, right? So it's like going up, and this is the war. The war happened like right there. Things are, they're shitty. Well, no, actually, see, it says right there when it begins to escalate. A year after the mutations begin to escalate, which goes like fucking up there. So it wasn't too bad, but because of the war, because of the way it's tied to the whole warp thing, mutations become a problem. Everybody's dead. Or not dead, but progressively things get worse as generations go on. And because the economic situation would probably be in dire straits, the idea of expanding into space is cute and all, but people are going to worry about feeding themselves more than they are going to worry about the stars too much. And then you have their government collapsing there. And then basically what's left of the two mutant fragments sort of duke it out. For the remainder, then the Imperium arrives. Now, we do not want them to go out into space. Purely because I think that's bad. The Felinids, remember, in Warhammer 40k, it's like a sentence when they talk about them. They're not important. They don't really matter at all. So that means we need to follow up with that. They don't matter that much. So we need to make sure it makes sense. They don't matter. They're not important. They're not that important. But we still want to write fluff for them. And just because they're not important doesn't mean a lot of stuff doesn't happen. If you look at Bulgaria, right? That's a tiny little country. You think it's not important. Look at Serbia. Practically, one of the reasons why World War I happened, by proxy, World War II happened. A little tiny country. It sparked the powder keg, so to speak. Little things have big implications sometimes. And maybe that could be the same for this.
Oh, look at you kids using big words.
I've been using big words all day, Famine. You've been too stupid to notice. He's like, oh, right in the feels. All right, so Now that
I
I've
want a divorce.
sort of explained how that works. Now, one thing I do want to say is I might, at the end of today, I might export this. If any of you pick up Campfire, you can actually look through the fluff yourself. This is going to be a work in progress. Honestly, I'm only going to really work on this when the day of, or maybe, you know, during the streams. Most times I'm spending times on our games, fucking Campfire thing, not this. This is just sort of like, not only just practice, but, you know, it's cool. All right, so, where were we? We were trying to explain away everything, quite literally. Okay, so the Forgotten Ones, the Felinid abhumans, blah, blah, martial governance, conservative military, relatively simplistic. The Imperium will like them. Appearances, minimalistic, actually, as well as martial. Military uniforms, and jumpsuits, because they're easy to mass produce. Technology. Now, they're in an age of technological degradation. Things are going bad. Things are going very, very badly. Medical technology would be on the down low. So, where would they sit energy-wise? Energy-wise, they'd probably default back away from fusion-based technology and go straight back to good old-fashioned coal. But would they? Would they by now have exhausted coal? That's a good reason. A good question. Would they have exhausted coal? Would they still have fusion? Fuck it. They will have fusion, but they'll have, like, very few. Fusion, mixture of coal, and other forms of energy. Perhaps even, to some degree, things like wind and solar, where they can fit it where inland, safe away from the things they're taking. Take it easy, Peterson. All right, so...
Bye.
Wind, solar, medical. What would they have for medical? I'd say just modern. We want to regress them, but we don't want them to be more advanced than the Imperium. So just modern, 21st century level. That's actually already regressing them quite a bit considering where they were. Level medical technology.
I say put them a little bit over that.
Okay. Like we'll say 25th century. Look at that. They're pretty advanced. That means they're more advanced than the Imperium, though, because the way I read the Imperium books is they're advanced, but they're not that advanced. Because they also have regressed.
They're pretty much flip-flopping. In some situations, they have quite impressive technology, and then in others, it's just, what? How can you not know something this basic?
Okay, this kind of gives us
kind of weird.
a framework to work with. That's enough information for now. Stay loose. All right, so next thing we need to make some stuff happen. So now let's go into the war, right? Let's start off with the war beginning. So the war officially begins. Oops. $30,001. However, the Felinids and the Forgotten. Actually, no. We're gonna use an abbreviation because otherwise I'll be typing that 6 times. The FOs. Foes. The foes. Get it? I like it. All right. The foe have had frequent skirmishes, I'd imagine, till it boiled to a real frontal confrontation. Now, this is going to be written from the Felinid perspective, not from the FOs. They don't matter. Because they're all dead.
Because they lost.
Yes, exactly.
Also, they're fucking chaos mutations.
So are the Felinids.
They all are, but...
No. But
But-
the Felinids are good chaos mutations.
Good
Right.
chaos mutations, he says. Oh, if the Imperium knew that they were fucking chaos mutations, they'd all get fucking nuked.
It's true.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so 31,001. So they've had skirmishes. Honestly, we could even argue that there's skirmishes that go back, but we can say that that information wasn't well documented because it's been about 900 years. All right. So 3001. I mean, this is kind of wording it in universe. What is known, however, is that the FOs, it's foes. never have not once communicated with the Felinids or any of the previous mutants. We'll just put abhumans there. Mostly because a difference between an abhuman and a mutant is abhuman is sanctioned, and technically speaking, Felinids are sanctioned, so they'd technically be abhumans, even though, based on our fluff, they're actually mutants. I just like the idea that they're mutants instead, because it makes them, you know, have this thing that is actually their Achilles heel to being literally deleted by the Imperium, which makes it an interesting secret to keep. But honestly, they wouldn't even know. Like Han said, they wouldn't even know that it's a secret because they themselves have no idea.
Which makes it a good secret.
It's a good secret indeed.
How can you tell someone something you don't know?
Okay, so the FOs communicated with Felinids, previous mutants, and human. So, they never communicated. And this kind of makes them a little bit more darker, as well as, you know... In Warhammer 40k, it's okay to have straight-up villains, and that's what we're going to go for the FO.
Well, here's the thing. You don't even necessarily have to go with that. If this is from the perspective of the Felinids, it's like for all we know, what actually happened is they did try. It's just the Felinid he said, no, they never tried.
They never would try too much. I mean, you start getting snipped in half with giant fucking claw people. What do they look like? No, I'd say the looks should be mysterious and vague. Yes, because we need to keep it vague because this information has been expunged. So, what little information we know? Okay, no wait, that can actually be saved for this, the FO. All records of their existence were expunged. Okay, we need to reword that. Most of the details concerning the FO has been redacted. EUified. Thanks, EU. Okay, just gonna put Article 13 there. Oh, I'm sorry. That's a mean joke.
The information has been, just say the information has been 13'd.
Actually, it's a joke. I'll put that there. Article 13. So, I kind of like it a little bit more details because okay. This is the lore Bible, but it's not really. It's kind of written in the this thing is written conflicted. It's written to be a Bible, but it's also written to be digested for the consumer. So we can be a little bit fun here. So we can be like, what we do know.
You don't want to necessarily go in details of what.
I do want to go in details. Hold on, hands. What we do know, before I lose my train of thought, what we do know is that the FOs were extremely tough. Or no. Strong. As well as resilient to resilient to low caliber bullets. Yes, I like the idea that the fucking Nekos have to carry around these big guns that fucking punch holes through these crustacean things. That's kind of cool, actually.
But Crabs, not even small Tyranids have this thick height, and they are known to be in universe to be extraordinarily tough in terms of their natural armor.
Fairman. The Felinids aren't using goddamn bolt guns. Or not even bolters.
Bolters can actually penetrate that, but normal weapons...
Most las weapons don't even fucking properly singe their fucking carapace.
A carapace basically is the equivalent of a...
armor. It's an exoskeleton.
Bulletproof vest in terms of protection.
Yes, but they have that. And so basically, these crustaceans have carapaces of their own. But we're not saying that they do exactly, because we kind of want to leave it for the audience to imagine what they look like and let their imagination run a little wild. The idea is that they see kind of like some sort of crustacean-like entity. Whether it's a literal fucking lobster, I don't know. I imagine them being not like lobsters. I imagine them looking kind of fucking disgusting, though. Because they
Kips,
were
I'm sorry
once
to say that,
people.
but I think you are a crustacean.
Okay, whatever. What we do know is that the FOs were extremely strong as well as resilient to low caliber bullets. And this gives us a little bit of insight to what kind of weapons they use, which is traditional. I like the idea that they weren't that advanced, because we don't want their weapons to be like fucking bolters. Because we kind of want them behind a little bit. So, weaponry is, slug-based weapons. They had no real reason to improve that too much. Yeah, the guns got better and sleeker. Did I say slug-based? Yes, I did.
You did.
Yep, you did.
I would have just gone with basic ballistics, but if you want to say slug specifically, that's fine too.
Well, I'm going to try to stick to kind of Warhammer 40k and how they word things to try to make it fit, even though I'm not doing the dates exactly the same. Purely because that's
and
more
like I
like
said, it's fine. Both ways, it's fine.
So, they use slug-based weapons because we don't want them to be too advanced. No, it's been 10,000 years. Honestly, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about this segment because, like, maybe they shouldn't even, like, how the fuck did the Imperium of Man, like, have it so easy? I felt like, realistically, the Emperor would be like, alright, Great Crusade, bumps into another human nation, and they just get fucking enveloped by them. Like, oh, there it goes. Oh.
Remember, quantity is a quality on its own.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
we've
if you
got
have something like spaceship and the other ones don't, well,
And especially if the quantity also is superhumans as well.
yep.
so. What can we say about the war? What is known, however, is the FOs did not communicate once with the Felinids. Okay, yep. All right, so the war kicks off, right? Now, what we could do for this is we could draw like battle maps and stuff and get some more detail, but we honestly need to revise the entire map because the map is actually just a prototype. So what we need is the war kicks off with the FOs attacking the Felinids. Keeping in mind that this is a fluffy Bible. They attacked the Felinids. So they were the aggressors. Now, what else is important information that needs to be known?
Do the Forgotten Ones use technology or just their
Yeah, that's what I was
natural
thinking too.
talents?
I was thinking, like, we need to give them something, because they need to be a little tougher than, like, oh, lol, we're just going to melee you to death. Like, that's cool and all, but, like, it's not particularly interesting if it's just a bunch of crabs. Maybe they're primitive. But what level technology?
They could spit acid.
That's... We already have things like that. Tyranids. Let's try to be inventive.
Imagine melting knuckles.
No, let's try to be more imaginative, I think. Let's not... Because we already have things like the Tyranids that kind of do that, and I kind of want to make something interesting and not just repaste over. So let's just... So, like, okay, they're crustacean, right? Would they have appendages? Would they have little fingers or something? Or mandibles? Could they interact with things? Do they have an opposable thumb still? We can't say too much about them. So, but once we say that they have technology, we do know that they are more human-like or more...
At least humanoid.
Humanoid, because they're able to manipulate things. So what could they manipulate? Could they hold a pistol? Could they fire a pistol? Let's start with that. Something simplistic. A pistol is relatively small. Would they be able to pick it up and use the pistol? Would they know how? Would they be able to reload the pistol?
If you're going to go off of slug-based weapons, how would they even be able to fire it if they're going to be water-based for the most of it?
Yeah. So I'd imagine they would actually
Harpoons.
make their own... Yeah, that's what I was thinking. They would use harpoons instead. Harpoon-based weaponry. Imagine that. Harpoon weapons, and then they can reel it back for some of them. So they could harpoon a guy, reel him back, and then kill him. But that's more of like a terror tactic. Okay, because they're chaos-leaning, they wouldn't be the most efficient. So using terror tactics might be more sensible, actually, in this case. So having gruesome like weapons, like harpoon-based weapons, like they harpoon a guy and it like fucking pulls him back off the tower or off the
So basically harpoons, spears, and nets and the like.
Yep. It fits with the theme a little bit more. It's a little bit less... It's a little bit silly to me, but It fits Warhammer, so I think that works. So, you know, that'd be more of a what kind of weapons we know. So we're going to flesh them out a little bit more because I think that's more interesting. We don't know what they looked like, but, you know, we kind of know they used harpoons, nets, and spears. Because that kind of makes sense, if considering they lived in the water. Look, hey, Arturi, I can't read every single comment. Calm down there, little lad. I can only glance over once in a while. Maybe they could burrow and had tech similar to the Grubs and Gears of War. That's actually not that bad of an idea. Little sad Neko. Well, shit. I'm just thinking here. Burrowing. Crustaceans can burrow. But to what degree, right? If we make them too powerful, why didn't they just sink the entire island?
Also, honestly, I think an enemy that's literally living underwater is already hard enough to fight already.
The Felinids are already fucked because most of the planet's covered in ocean.
Oceanic world,
Yes. They're screwed.
There's no need to burrow.
They're screwed. And they can swim up to the surface and attack vessels. So, honestly, most of the islands have probably switched over to... Ooh, this is actually interesting, thinking about it. So, one thing we can switch back over. The Felinids switched from ships because ships would be vulnerable. And they could even use harpoon guns that they'd float to the surface and shoot down low-flying craft, like helicopters that were only flying like a few feet above the water. Why would they be flying that low? That'd be stupid. They'd be flying very high above the sky so they couldn't get shot down.
Rescue operations.
Why would they be rescuing? Anything in the water is dead.
Or at least assume dead.
Oh, think about it. We'd have cool sea monsters too, guys. Because it wasn't just the humans that mutated. All the life forms on the planet mutated. The planet should be extremely hostile. It went from being like a paradise to being like a hell pit. Like a shithole.
If you make it, I would go with the Death World thing.
It's not like a death world, but it's got like big nasty sea monsters.
If you have everything.
Did I say that the fucking grass was trying to kill them? Like, well, no.
Now you're overplaying that. Basically, if you have something with such aggressive flora and fauna, that's usually getting classified as a death world.
Yeah, but I didn't say that.
Well, it sounded like it.
I said, did I? And then you said the exact thing that I said. But saying that I said it. Fairman, what the fuck?
Right. No, what Fairman's saying is you're kind of creeping towards the territory where they would classify it as a death world.
Maybe it is shitty. But now, the thing is, would it be necessarily Death World forever? No. Is it possible to tame one? I'd hope so. For their sake. All right, so, more importantly, back to important matters. They no longer
Warhammer 40k
use
no
boats.
way to improve anything in this universe.
They switched to air travel to traverse from island to island. Now, this could be an interesting thing. Is like, okay, what happens when the fucking crustaceans overrun an island, right? Well, we could bomb it, but why? Why would you do that?
To kill as many of them as possible?
Because they probably already left.
Yeah, well,
the crustaceans wouldn't live there because they know it would be bombed.
Would they even be intelligent enough for that?
I'd say so. I'd say they should be fairly intelligent because, honestly, it's more interesting to have them as an intelligent adversary than a zombie. We're not trying to create a zombie-like enemy where it's just brain dead and just throws itself at them. I'd say sort of like a malicious thing. A really cruel creature, honestly. Making it fairly dark. The idea is we're transitioning from what was, in this lore, relatively not that 40k-ish to spiking and turning that notch up. Warhammer 40k turns the notch up quite high. So it needs to fit the universe. It needs to be grim, dark. Like that, Dark Millennium. It's got to be grim, dark. So it's time we make it tune up into that. Grim, dark. Grim, dark. Yes, yes. So one thing we'll put down as another note for them. we'll just say that they're intelligent. Just to that we know that they're not brain dead. Oh, yes. You reminded me. Herpty derpty. Okay, so let's do something quick here. Nope.
Never
That's
good when you say that.
the map. Adobe. Where's Photoshop? I can't see the icon. Did I accidentally close it? I think I did. Oh, well, that's not the worst thing
Shame
ever.
on you.
Shame on you.
Right, so open up Photoshop. Grab people. That's the spirit, Pyrrhus. He gets it. But what do the
I didn't
FO
know.
taste
I
like?
already said that. What?
Honestly, I think Nekos like seafood because they like the taste of the FO. Don't see nothing.
like-
My hand's high. Photoshop, why do you do this to me?
So basically, the Nekos devoured the enemies afterwards.
I mean, it would be a delicious irony. In more ways than one.
Yes, it would. Well,
Like,
delicious.
it would be funny. Boop. Okie dokie, pokey. Let's take a squeak peek at this here little mapu, right? So, one thing we need to make is a little mapu. Little mapu of solar system. And put this here. Turn this low so it's kind of see-through. So, here's the sun. Oh, that doesn't look good. Drawing with a mouse, so you'll have to forgive the fact that the circles look awful. All right, so sun right there.
Isn't there a circle tool?
Shut up, hands. Now the hands has been.
For pointing out the obvious.
He's like, it hurts, man.
How dare you to be logical?
Ah! The planets.
Doing Warhammer fanfic. No logic allowed.
All right, so little planet. Little moon, right? Little moon. Oof, little months. So, this. It orbits a gas giant. Why? Because I like the idea that the day-night cycle is fucking awful here. So, when the planet is on the side that goes around the little fucking gas planet, right? Because light bounces off the gas planet, it would technically be just as bright when the planet was facing away from the sun. Because the light bounces off the gas giant. You like that? I love that. It's so fucking awful. That means I'll never sleep. All right, so how long does it take for Carlos McConnell?
They never sleep. You sounded so fucking
if
happy.
they were there for that long, I feel like they would have adapted to that over that long span of time.
Yeah, I think that.
But whatever.
I know, it just changes.
Also, there's something, kids. Also, there's something called curtains.
Shut up.
Or did they lose their technology?
So,
in Cubes' fanfic, curtains were never invented.
Yeah, they lost their technology.
But hold up. Carlos McConnell, before they lost the technology, because they did. No, I hate using the lost technology trope, but you gotta for 40k because that's how that works. So
They lost the technology for curtains.
they didn't lose the technology for curtains, Fairman. Oh my fucking god. So when the planet goes around the day side, right? So it's let's make a different color here so we can kind of distinguish what Kibbs is doing, so people can kind of see. So it's like, actually no, that's not really how. Well, it's way too close to the sun. Honestly, they'd be on fire by now. But you get the point. They would be burning. Oh, it's so sad. So, when they're on this... No, that's not how you do it. I guess you'd say like that, right? So, only part of it, because this is the shadow. This is the shadow, right? Because it goes like that. That's the shadow of that planet, right? Hands? Hands!
I mean, it's drawn a bit weird, but yeah, sure.
That's how that works, though. I'm just making sure, because you were saying, like you didn't believe it. I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's how that works, unless I'm, like, having an aneurysm.
Because I was saying, because of the angles you were drawing.
He wasn't criticizing you.
Well, look, just fucking you piece of cunting shit. I hate you. Don't I scoot it the fuck over? It's just to make you happy, because you're a little fucking special little shit. There, it's a little bit farther away, and now you can't see if it's Carlos McConnell anymore. Okay, I hate that name. Give me the word. Oh my god, give it to me! Alright, so, Gib. Slamp. There. Okay. Carlos McConnell. There. Look, see, sun far away. Shadow. When the planet goes around this side, so it's got, poof, daylight on one side. So that means there's a section where there's no light at all. It gets fucking cold. Fucking cold. So cold. How cold would it get? That's a good question. Guys, how cold would it get? I don't even know. I don't know science and shit.
At one point I would have known, but it's been so long.
Also, I'm curious, what would the tidal wave, or how would that affect... So the various moons, right, would play into the ocean. How would that work? How the rising tide. How would the gas giant's gravity well affect the sea on the gassy, or the little planet Carlos McConnell? Also, my idea was to think that the system was fairly devoid of planets, and that was my other excuse why they didn't colonize any planets. This is it. Because fuck them. Fuck them. They don't get to have more planets. They don't get that, okay? They gotta buy the DLC, and they didn't. They couldn't
need to buy some more planets DLC.
afford it. There. See, it's three-dimensional, kind of.
They can see the menu to buy it, but they just can't.
I'll import this into the document. So, Carlos McConnell rotates around a planet, which rotates around a sun. Because it's actually a moon. That's no moon. Got him. Got him. They're all sad. Gas giants are usually more stable objects in a system. Wait. What? Chat, what are you doing? They're saying things. Are so big and tasty. Right, I read that. A gas giant would be wrecking havoc on the seas. I know. So the seas would be very turmoilous or whatever. And I like the idea of that. And also the night cycle, or not the night cycle, but this when the planet rotates around this, right? If it gets caught in the dead spot, because it'd technically be a sphere, right? And it'd have to orbit around that section. Unless it orbits like this and around an angle, and it doesn't quite go like this. Maybe that's fucking with it too much. Maybe it just orbits like this. It's lucky and it doesn't get stuck in that. Except maybe like one time of the year where it gets super dark. Also, that'd be really cool to look off and see a gas giant. Right as a giant tidal wave fucking kills you. The waves would be fucking awful. I love it. Wait, 10 mem? I meant 100 m. Gibbs is trying to use 3D logic on a 2D plane. What are you talking about? That's how you draw stuff. Like, if I was drawing a head, I'd be like, wow, look at that. But she's looking this way, see? And then her little eyes would be over there, and her little stupid face would be like, wow, I'm so sad. I won't die. And then she'd hang herself with a little rope.
Looks it up, realizes it's wrong, and just goes, no.
What are you talking about? It's fine. Look, I don't know science enough to comment on how this works exactly, but that's my idea for what the planet would actually be like. Why do I think that? I think it's cool.
Chat, in Kibbs' defense, he has not given a scale to this picture.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Actually,
Actually, is that how that works? Fuck. So light poops that.
If you're doing something, yes.
That wouldn't work that way. I didn't realize that until now. It would actually be kind of like a cone, right? Because light bounces. Get out of here. I don't remember how planets work. So either way, I like the idea on that. It works that way. Honestly, 40K doesn't factor in gravity or fucking physics and shit. So fuck it. I'm kidding. Though we should figure out what the fuck it does, because that would be cool. Okay, so I'm gonna export this little shit into the little document. Ooh, get over there. Gotta hide all my hentai. Can't show you guys it. You guys will be like, wow, there's some titties. And we're like, fuck. They know where the titties are, Fairman. And then Fairman will I have to hide the titties. And that'll be like an entire segment.
I don't think Fairman would care. He would just say, yeah, so?
And then we'd right-click ban Fairman for not caring enough. Right-click. It's called right-click ban Fairman.
Kip's turned into a Care Bear.
Fairman, your name's Fairman. You're Care Bear. My autism, Kibbs. Oh, but I hate writing science-y shit, though. That's what Bubbles is for. And Bubbles isn't here. Bubbles handles all the science stuff. Like, one time I was writing stuff for a science fiction faction, and I was like, look at this. And he's like, that's dumb, and then erased it. And I was like,
Why looking you dead in the eyes?
I thought it was cool, though. And he's like, it's dumb, and it makes no sense. And I'm like, no. Fantasy, characters, governments, and shit, no problem. Fucking science, there's a problem. There's a big problem. Mathematics, hit or miss. Bubbles, the science guy. Bubbles, Bubbles. Oh no, Bubbles mad.
I don't think Bubbles would care enough to do that.
I tried to
He would
convince
throw the book
Bubbles.
at you.
Okay, so last night when we were recording Halo episodes, I was like, "Hey, Bubbles," and he's like, "Whoa, I'm on them Bubbles and I'm cranky." And I was like, "Bubs, you should do a YouTube series on Stellaris." And he's like, "Hmm?" And I'm like, "On the Xbox One," and he was mad. He was
I
mad.
mean, why would you tell him to do that when he has
It
it
would
on
be
PC?
funny. It would be
Because
funny
it's him.
because he would complain so much. He would be so sad and mad. Okay. What is going on here? Meyer wants to join the conversation. Well, Meyer, you throw money at me enough, so... Just kidding. That's not how that works. Don't throw money at me if that was the reason. That is not how that works. Actually, no, Meyer.
Wow.
Meyer, I know him.
Kips is officially a slut.
Yeah, I know. I was just making sure I told people not to.
No, he accepts money. That makes him more whore.
Hey, fuck you.
You're right.
Also, fuck you, Fairman. This money goes for very good, important stuff, such as artwork for the game. That shit is not cheap. Nor is the music. The music is going to be the fucking... I don't want to think about it right now, actually. Let's just focus on the other things. So, Meyer, how do planets work? Science.
They circle around.
Right,
Mm.
so
Also, I'm
that's
pretty sure-
that's
Good
about
start.
as much as I know.
Also, I'm pretty sure it's pronounced Muir.
Mir.
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 Falkevir. Yeah.
Mir Falkevir. Yes, Mir Falkevir. This doesn't sound
Mir.
Russian.
It's not Russian, you dunce.
I just thought of something. Let the islands be way larger than the built and populated areas are, and the high enough to avoid the tidal waves from the massive gas giant. I mean, yeah, no, there'll be massive tidal waves, and I love the idea of like an ocean battle taking place at night with massive fucking tidal waves that fucking swallow ships up. It's fucking beautiful. They're just like, bye, as I sink to the bottom of the ocean. I just imagine this island having tons of little fucking tiny wreckages underwater. Tons of them. Just tons. Also, I want to know what the current is like. Oh my god, that's right. We actually designed water currents and climate and shit and tectonic plates on planets before. But that was painful, and I don't want to do that again. Fuck.
It was painful.
Yeah, here you are doing something somewhat similar.
It's somewhat similar because the planet we made for the game that Fairman and I are working on, we went through that details, and I was just... I mean, I think it'll be nice for some people who are autistic, but, like, maybe most people won't give a fuck. That's what I'm saying.
There'll be that one autist who sends you letters later. It's like, excuse me, but you did it wrong. That's not
And then I'll be like, Bubbles, you did it wrong. You're the one who told me how this works. And he's like, oh, science. He screeches.
or better yet, knowing Bubbles, he'll look at you and say, well, that's not what I told you.
Just what you tell you, me, Bubbles, and be like, Bubbles, you can kill yourself. Just kidding, Bubbles. We love you, Bubbles. Don't do it. No. If Bubbles dies,
He does
though.
sound a bit autistic.
If Bubbles dies, the science bits of our games will get really bad. really quick. Or they won't get bad, but they'll take longer to design because I'll have to actually research it about science. Oh, but I already do that. It's not like I don't do that.
Because it's only Kips and Bubbles doing it.
Look, the thing is, I spend a lot of time researching... Okay, I already saved that. Researching governments and countries and their cultures and migrational patterns, human stuff, right? I focus on characters and that kind of stuff. Not really my forte for planets. or
For
fucking
planets.
physics,
Yeah.
for that
Yeah,
matter.
it's funny how basically astrophysics is a thing that people don't typically look into.
But technically speaking, astrophysics needs to be looked at to properly write this planet. Fuck! It's supposed to be an exercise, but I didn't think it hurt. It's like we
Yeah,
put on the
yeah.
weights. Oh, so heavy, though. My muscles hurt. Help. All right, so now that I'm dead.
Maybe this is why Bubbles yells at you when you come up with ideas.
Okay. So we've almost explained why Arith has flat titties. Why?
Because of the massive fucking tidal waves.
The tidal waves wash the titties away. It's like, what? How does that work? Good question. Astrophysics. It's
Well,
not-
if you get a PhD in astrophysics, you'd know.
You'd understand, okay? It's just glasses. The little fucking. Actually, cat girls aren't gay. Ha, got him. Right, so. This lore is fucking giving me cancer. See, if I could make up my own bullshit, this would be nothing. But, like, I have to make up my bullshit, but make it up in the framework of 40k. And I don't have access to the 40k lore Bible, assuming they have one, which I'm pretty sure they don't, because a lot of their books are kind of weird
or
with
if
each
they
other.
do, it's ignored.
If they do have a lore Bible, then some of the authors are just fucking ignoring it, like Hans said. Because I swear to God, Last Chancers was so... it really killed a lot of soul in my body. Anyone read that book? Gav Thorpe, Last Chancers?
No.
Basically, it's about a penal battalion single-handedly fucking slaughtering every fucking thing. And while it sounds autistic and cool, it's not.
I always get the wrong mental image when you say penal battalion.
Penal, as in, like, prisoners. They were traitors and stuff. Which is like, they
Yeah,
should just kill
I
them.
understand that, but a penal battalion sounds a bit like a military unit that Slanesh would use.
Actually, Sandbox Universe 2 might not be a bad idea. Don't I own that game? Or thing? I own one of them. Legacy. Maybe that would be something. I don't own the second one, but I own the first one. Let's go take a look. Actually, would that be helpful as a tool? To a degree, probably would be useful. I could see the application of it. Would it help us necessarily? That is it. This actually would be a useful tool. How much? Anyway, it's money. Oculus Rift. Get out of here. Get it. Even though I've got a HTC Vive, I just never use it.
Kids, remember, you're not getting paid.
Yeah, no, but I might use this for us.
No, he's referring to like the level of detail you're trying to go into for the planet.
The thing is, I'm autistic when I like my detailing with my governments and systems and everything. I'm like, yeah, so this worked, this worked. And it's also out of date, and so none of this actually works that way anymore because it changed when this guy took power. It changed. And then it gets worse because I start adding more and more details, and then I'm starting to cut myself. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to buy this. Because I can refund it in 2 hours if it's not useful. And it might be useful because I don't know jack shit about astrophysics. I should probably start popping open documentaries and just run a course through it. 40k lore Bible? You mean Barch? See, if I could just crack open a Barch every day, I'd do it. But he makes noises and grumpy sounds at me when I ask him too many questions.
You heard it here. He wants to crack open Arch's skull.
Wow.
To be fair, he didn't specify that, but...
Yeah, I didn't. Fairman.
Well, but he wants the knowledge, and where is that knowledge?
I mean, there are other ways to get him to willingly part with his knowledge.
Wait, there, huh?
Money.
Oh, I did it wrong all the time. Then.
Guys, let's look at Steam while
So
that
many people
downloads.
die.
When that downloads, then we'll put together the... Actually, we can put up together the solar map.
If you had told me that earlier...
Fairman, silence!
We're
We're going to talk about important things. So, important things being, we are going to put together the solar map in this... Not this. This thing. When it's done.
The Steam downloads.
1 minute. And then we Control-Alt print screen it, and then we'll put it in there and be like, bam, look, that's our solar map. That's actually really, really small. And honestly, this does a lot of the heavy lifting because astrophysics are not my strong point.
Yeah, a lot of equations.
When you write stories, you don't need to be super autistic, but it depends on how detailed you want your story to be. In a lot of cases, like things like Star Wars, they just simply don't address that. And honestly, that's not a bad thing. If you don't want to address it, you don't have to. You can have your space flight work however you really want it to. It's just fantasy at that point. And to a large degree, science fiction is fantasy. Arturia, I'm not able to read every single goddamn comment. Oh my god. No. I'm gonna have autism. So once this is done, we'll make the fucking map. It's the tidal wave's fault. I'm flat, Arith. 19, I'm 41. Damn. Crap, I forgot the dummy. I think he just hates you, Arturia. Wait, for Jordan Peterson, isn't it time for you to go to bed? Isn't it past your sleepy time? Okay, there, it's done. Let's make the map. So, what do we know about the solar system? Single star, right? Single planet that is habitable. Single actual planet, because, well, no, there's a gas giant that it's orbiting. Oh god, that's loud.
What kind of star?
That is extremely loud.
You assume Kibbs just thought about that. He just thought
it's a binary one, isn't it?
It's just gonna be like the regular sun. Why? Because I just can't be fucked. Ah, my noggin! Alright, so.
I don't know what you thought would happen if you did that.
How do we turn down the fucking sound for this? Help!
Since I don't know the program, I can't help you.
Help, it's loud! Settings, where? Cog. My ears bleed so badly. Just...
Kibbs is crying in pain.
Wait, is that applied automatically? It slowly fades. I like the idea of a little background. Little noise, you know? Just not my ears. What about a Chaos Sun? Wouldn't that not be more interesting? Wouldn't the Imperium not just fucking nuke the entire system? God damn it, Jimmy. My name not Jimmy, though. It's Jim. Oh, that's close. Gibbs the Beamer. Beamer, not Boomer. Oh, wait, so how do we make a solar system in this thing, right? Okay, we got Earth and a bunch of fucking rocks and shit orbiting around the sun. I don't care about that, okay? It's about me. Not this...
All about me. My name Kibbs.
Me namen Kibben. Alright, so, add. Right, so if we just add random shit, right, like, yeah, that doesn't make things go away, though. That was scary. Alright, so, watch it almost crash into the earth there. How do you make new thingies? New! There we go, empty simulation. Okay, we need a sun. We need a gas planet. We need some moons around that sun, gas planet. And, yeah, that's about it. One oceanic and one... Or no. Gas planet. Planet orbiting gas planet. Oh, is it done? I thought it was like a loading bar or something. I just can't tell because I have no idea what's happening. So, add. We need a sun, right? Sun.
Yeah.
Just regular old Terra sun, you know, the soul. That's not sun. That's just a regular old sun right there. Poof. Ah! Oh, my eyes! Alright, so now that my eyes are... Oh, that burns a little. Right, so we need a gas planet, right? So we're going to basically... Saturn is a gas planet, right? Sega Saturn. There it is! Saturn, the gas planet. Right, so Saturn's like, hey, how you doing? I'm just this little planet. Oh, fuck! Just look at this planet. Look at this planet. No! My fucking eyes, though. All right, so how do you? Want to go?
It just constantly screams, zooms into the sun.
Double left click. Okay.
To be blind.
Okay, I was gonna say something like that.
Add moons. Okay, we need some moonses. Or no. Just regular Earth. Right? Yeah, because it's basically the same size as Earth, right? So it's like.
Maybe.
Okay, you know what? We'll say it's actually fairly far their way, so that the gravitational pull isn't so bad. In fact, it'll hang on the edge. Well, that doesn't make it so bad. If it was like that, it would be pretty fucking atrocious.
Yeah, the thing is, the way you drew it, it was like extremely fucking close, and that's what some people were having issues with.
Okay, there we go. And that orbits around that, right? Yes, right? What are you doing? Are you flying away? What's going on? Okay. You are orbiting, maybe? I'm not 100. Oh, yes, you are. I hope. Okay, now we need a little moon. Little moon, little moon, little moon, little moon. Mercury. That's a moon, right? It's a big fucking moon.
Oh god, Kips.
I'm just fucking kidding, you little shit. Alright, so regular old moon. They'll be like...
Somehow I doubt that.
Oh my god, the moon could hit fucking the gas plant. Alright, so the moon will fuck with the oceans. It'll also simulate it to be kind of like Terra. That way we don't have to explain that the oceans are super duper retarded. Right? Okay, so that's kind of what it should look like to a degree. Yeah, there we go. Oh, maybe we could do some cool stuff. So I can make a map here. Yes. We could put some random asteroid shits. Is that asteroid like... Okay, that was going weird. How do you make like weird orbits? Fuck. Oh well. We'll just put some asteroids out there, you know, just to say that there's like an asteroid belt around this proximity, roughly. So I can get an idea. There. There's a small little asteroid belt. There's a planet. There's technically 2 planets, and that's really it. That's all that's in there. Okay. How do I make a little screen pick?
Kip,
What?
speed up. Because right now you just placed these, but what happens after a few hundred or million years? Did they crash in the sun? Did they get out of thing? You need to
Look, it's
simulate.
fantasy. It doesn't actually matter. Also, I'm pretty sure like this...
Kips, why do you get a program that can simulate that if you don't use a simulation picture?
Fairman, I wasn't using it for that. I was using it just to put shit together. Also,
Looks a bit like
Earth, what are you-
Kips, just go for the
Kips,
speed thing
are you
and simulate it.
I
the
just
reason-
needed the picture early. Why did I...
Kibbs, the reason that happened is because it was simulated prior to the moon being around the planet.
Oh,
That's
the
why.
moon...
Yes.
Moon, you betrayed me. I thought we were friends.
Yes, why do you think we were kind of laughing at you saying we're going to have 2 moons around this planet and then it's going to be around this gas giant? That's why
Already-
people were laughing.
What's happening to the moon, though? Why is dust coming off the moon? I don't understand. That looks pretty bad. I think it's actually going to crash into Earth. All right, so
No.
let's go back. How do we wind back? Let's... No.
So if you want it to be
Kips,
accurate,
let's just simulate it for a few million years. Let's see what happens.
Well, no, we don't need to simulate it for a few million years, Fairman. It's still fantasy. The idea was just to put something together and take a screen cap, so I could be like, so I can organize it that way.
Kips, you could actually have a little bit of fun with that.
Fairman, I don't want to spend all fucking year designing one aspect of it.
You're not supposed to wait literally a few million years, Kips.
Shut up, Fairman. Now,
there's a fast forward button.
put a sun, like we did last time.
Remember
Put
to
a
zo-
little planet. Look, I only wanted to be in this thing for like 5 seconds, not for fucking hours. Okay? I just wanted it for the screen cap, not for the actual thing. Jupiter is sort of a gas giant, but I kind of want it. Saturn! Where did Saturn go? Oh, Sega Saturn. Poof. There, look. Saturn is being happy again. Happy, happy Saturn. They're not going to have a moon. They already have the gas giant, okay? They won't have nothing else. That would be cool if they had a moon too. Could be cool. But no.
You saw what happened.
They floated away into space and were sad. And it almost looked like they were going to leave the galaxy. Or the solar system.
I think if you would have let that continue, yes, that would be my guess.
Or they would eventually hit something and then die. Alright, so.
If it didn't hit an asteroid, they would have been flung out.
Okay, are you going to, like, stay there? Or are you going to be like a cunt? What did that do? Hours, sec, years? Look, just hit the play button. I'm so confused. single? Yeah, like I clicked on the single button. Fairman? How does
There
it
is a start button there.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Well, that's not the speed, though. Like, turn that shit the fuck up. Years? No. How do you go fast? Gotta go fast. Yeah, well. But it looks like it's orbiting, right?
I think it's okay. Maybe press the start button.
Start button. Yeah, whatever. Good enough. I don't care.
Oh no, I think that's saying what it's showing per
There.
like day or what doesn't matter. He closed it.
Doesn't matter because we're wasting too much time in something that I just wanted for an example. All right, so kind of. Yeah, no, it's really the same except for, the moons are gone. Okay. There we go. That's Carlos McConnell now. Look at that. It's really fucking tiny. Get out of here, Earth. You fucking phony. Also, yeah, that'd be another thing. You'd have to factor in for gravity well and everything else, but I'm not that autistic. And Warhammer...
But you said you were artistic.
Warhammer doesn't even do that. Because they're like, yeah, no.
Warhammer is retarded, kids.
Shut up, Fairman. Now, space stuff. Fuck, I don't know. Oh no, I just wrong button. I just wanted to export it. No, bad mistakes. I made my mistakes. Fuck, I just want to export it. Planet. No, solar system. Yeah. There. Simple. That is the solar system. That was the one thing I wanted. The one motherfucking thing. I'm gonna shoot someone. Wow, that's mean. I think it's gonna be Kibbs. That's a little dramatic. Kibbs, freeze or pause the game. Keep it paused, he says. Ah! He's mad. Tell me why. Alright, guys, look at that. Look at that. Okay, so we've made some substantial progress, right? Now let's go back over to the world. Poof. All these factions, I still have to write more shit for them. And they don't even exist that long. But they exist for almost 10,000 years. So close enough. That's pretty impressive, all things considered. Alright, so...
Uh-oh, where's the hiccups?
Shut up, Fairman. Oh no, you go to world, that's right, view maps.
The only thing I ever say.
McConnell system. Yeah, look at that. Yeah, this works better. Actually, I don't like that one. I like this better. So, here's the sun. Here's Carlos
Well, if
McConnell.
you don't like it, don't forget to get the refund within the time frame.
I still might use it, though. Maybe later. Maybe later tonight. Oh, yeah, that's right. Get out of here. Okay, well, Alt F4 your ass into oblivion. Get out of here. Get out of here. You see, but not... Okay, so this world will be called the Gas Planet. Till I come up with what the fuck it's going to be called. Ah, I meant to put it in there. I pressed the wrong button. That's a universe. It's not a gas planet. I lied to you. Whoops. That's a little big, guys. We want something a little itsy bitsy tinier, probably. Add location, right? So, where'd McConnell go? McConnell.
Did you accidentally delete it?
Carlos McConnell. What a stupid name. I still can't get over that. Okay, Carlos McConnell is back. She may have disappeared into the warp temporarily, but shit happens. That's probably why they fucking had mutants for a second. Add location.
I mean, it is actually a fact that the warp can literally randomly gobble up entire planets and just blocks them out somewhere else. That did happen, if I recall right.
What do we put this at? A world. Yes. GP. You shouldn't be a universe, though, because that's, like, fucking gargantuan. Like, just be a planet, okay? That's all we need. There. Perfect. Fucking amazing. Oh, my God. We did what I was trying to do for fucking ever. There, Carlos. There it is. There's the system right there. Sun's over there. Fuck it. No, I'm kidding. I'll put it there. There we go.
Normally the sun is in the center of the picture, though.
Look at that. That is... Oh, so beautiful. We fucking did it. We did the map that took way too long to make, and I was actually getting gray hair. Oh, God, save it. Just save it.
Wake
Just
up
save
in
it.
my world.
Shut up, old man. Now, in the arms of the angels. Please, no. Gibbs can. Can you imagine Furry 40K where everyone is furry? Absolutely heretical. That is pretty fucking heretical. That is
Well,
borderline.
someone just outed himself.
Fairman,
Plus,
don't
I'm
be
pretty sure the furries have done their own dumb spin-off fan fictions of it, so, you know, you can probably find it.
Well, remember, the thing is, when you make if you make a fan fiction, right, like this piece of shit, right, the idea, or at least my idea anyways, is that you are doing it as an exercise in creativity. The idea being you use the existing rules of a universe. Now, what I did here with the Felinid so far, and what we're going to continue to do, is probably a little bit more advanced than I should have done it. I should have honestly just been like, okay, let's just write lore for a detachment or maybe a division instead of
Yeah, that's honestly what I thought you
entire
were going to try to get to.
fucking planet. Oh, but the problem was is like I wanted to, okay, so I was gonna do what you were saying actually. I was gonna write a Felinid division. Oh wait, somebody's going to bed. Oh wait, take it easy, Arturia. Nice talking to you, buddy. Have a good one. I wanted to write a Felinid division, and I was gonna keep it simple that and just say Arith was a part of that. But the problem I encountered was, well, actually every regiment in 40K has their own fluff to them, and they're actually really deep. And it is a big role into what they do. I was like, well, in order to do that, I need to actually go back, and see what makes the Felinid special. And also need to say, well, why are they Felinids? Okay, answered that question. It was autistic, but we did it. How did the Felinids come to be? How did they, and what makes them who they are? This is where the Felinids begin. This is the back lore that leads up to the Felinids, which answers the Felinid question. Sounds like genocide. But you get the point.
It does a bit.
It's just a wee bit. Felinids, and this section, 31st Millennium, will tell us who they are and what they do. And this section will tell us who they are now. Or how they came to be. I don't know, this is more like the how they came to be, and this is like the sort of continuation of that, of who they are, and then where they are now. More like that is what I was thinking in terms of how organizing this. But yes, perfect. Actually, because it is 10:23 p.m., I'm actually going to wrap up the stream here. We had a good stream, though. Really long one. I'm not sure.
Yeah. How long are we in?
Committee-based writing is great for reviewing things. What I think we should do, actually, is we should go back maybe before the next one. We should go through this. And we should not only just clean it up, but what we should do is clean it up and fix the grammatical errors that are plaguing it everywhere. And, yeah, basically fix that up so it looks nice and pretty. Also, double check the canon. Make sure everything connects perfectly. Because there are, I'm sure, some inconsistencies that's going to happen on the first draft, because this is the first draft.
These things are bound to happen.
But yeah, once this is ironed out more, we'll revisit the characters, and we can start adding characters to this timeline. Now that there are events, and we can do a lot more with that. Yes, I think so. But yeah, thanks for joining us today, guys. One thing I do want to say is once this is done, once we finish this series, the stream series, and we've written enough Felinid lore, we'll make a lore video on it, and we'll even have artwork made custom for it. Probably have Salah do it. It'll be a little expensive, but you guys donated enough money that pays for a few pieces actually already. And then we'll have that commissioned, and we'll throw together a lore video on what we created. And one thing I'm going to do right now, I know I'm rambling here, but in the Discord, where did Discord? Okay, so I'm going to go over there, and I'm going to pull up a thing real quick. In this section, the assets, I'm going to put the campfire program here, or not program, but the file. So if you guys want to look at it yourselves, you can do that there if any of you bought the program. That'll be in there once the stream ends. So you can see it for yourself. But yeah, until next time, you guys take it easy and have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.